Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ariel Helwani Show!
Back in your life on this Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Hello again, everyone. I sure hope you're doing well. Hello to everyone in the United States of America. Today's a very big day. Yes, November 5th. We have been hearing about this date for quite some time. It is here. It's Election Day in America. And, you know, with this particular election and with the elections of recent past, there's been a lot of emotion, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension in the air. And so this is going to be an escape, if you will, for all of you. This is going to be a place where we don't necessarily talk about these things. If on this particular day you need a break from all the election talk, you could come to us. You could come hang out with your friends here on the Ariel Helwani Show and with our 4-pack of guests. And perhaps this can be a bit of an escape valve, if you will, for all of you. We're not going to. Everyone else is delving into the world of politics, not us. All right, we jumped in, and you know,
I brought all these notes.
Well, quite frankly, you know, it was Frank who peer pressured me into that moment, and so you know, it's one of the big misses, I think, of our early stretch here on the program. But it's a political free zone, Frank. It's a political free zone. No bias, no spin, no politics, no endorsements of any kind. Just a little old-fashioned fight talk. How do you feel about that?
Thumbs up in the chat.
Yeah, thumbs up to the chat, thumbs up to the chat. Thank you very much for all the support to the chat members, to the actual members, to everyone who partakes, everyone who's subscribing, who's pressing that button, the thingy, the bell, the like, the follow on podcast platforms, the commenting, the reviewing, all these things and more. Working out the kinks. We're still a relatively new operation, less than a month old, still to this day. Now, yesterday, great program, talked a lot about Edmonton. Today, we're talking a lot about the business of combat sports and with a bit of a leaning towards the sweet science, which I'm very excited about. I love talking about these things. I love talking to individuals like the ones we have on today's program. And we have a couple of newcomers to the scene. Now, in about 30 minutes' time, we're going to be joined by the head man over at the California State Athletic Commission, the executive director. In my opinion, the best in the business, and he has been voted as such, I believe, 10 years in a row. California is the gold standard when it comes to all things regulation, and in my opinion, Andy Foster is number one. And of course, coming off this weekend where we saw the two new rules implemented via the unified rules at the Edmonton show, 12-6. We talked about that yesterday, downed opponent. Rule change, if you will. Andy Foster going to come on to talk about those items and a whole lot more at about 1:30. We always love these chats. At 2 o'clock, we'll be joined by the founder of Queensberry Promotions, the legendary Frank Warren. On Sunday evening, we found out that Queensberry is now teaming up with DAZN. They announced a multi-year deal with the streaming platform beginning April 1st, 2025. So between now and March 31st, they're still on TNT Sports in the UK, but beginning April 1st, they're moving over to DAZN with the likes of Matchroom. Who would have thought just a few years ago, Frank Warren saying things like, oh, you know, good luck on your app, or calling DAZN dead zone. These are all things that he has said in the past. Well, a lot can change in a few years, and now he has struck this multi-year deal with DAZN. He's now under the umbrella with the likes of Matchroom, but not just Matchroom. Golden Boy Promotions, Misfits. Obviously, you know, they're doing a bunch of stuff with Riyadh season and whatnot. And so there's a very strong case to be made that DAZN, if it wasn't already, is, you know, the one dominant home for all things boxing in a relatively short amount of time. And with the with the dissolution of Showtime and HBO, they are the ones standing strong at the moment. And so we'll talk to him about that deal and a whole lot more. Youssef Zalal is someone that I've never had the opportunity to speak to on the show. He's on quite the run. He was in the UFC. He got released. He has come back to the UFC, and he's won 3 in a row, and he had a fantastic performance against Jack Shore over in Edmonton. He's a great character. They call him the Moroccan Devil. I'm looking forward to talking to him and his big plans at around 2:30. And at 3 o'clock, first time I've had a chance to speak to the president of Top Rank Boxing. That is Todd DuBoef, the stepson of Bob Arum. Of course, we've talked to Bob many a times. Way back in, I believe it was 2009, I spoke to Bob Arum at Yankee Stadium. That was my introduction to Bob when we were there for the Miguel Cotto Manny Pacquiao press conference, and he had the famous rant about MMA fans and about, people rolling around and all that stuff. Never had the chance to speak to Todd on the show. We've talked offline here and there. I'm looking forward to talking to him because there's a lot going on in their world as well. So as you can see, a lot of businessy stuff, some boxing talk, some MMA talk, a little something for everyone on this Choo Choo Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day. Now, speaking of boxing, a few interesting things happened to me over the last few days, and that led me to bring this up to the guys and to our first discussion of the day. On Sunday, a very good friend of ours, a parent in our friend circle, a father of my son's best friend, who knows nothing about fighting, who never talks about fighting, who knows nothing about what I do for a living, is just not a fight fan, quite simply. Told me that he was going to have a party at his house to watch Tyson and Paul on November 15th. Now, this is someone who's around my age, maybe a little bit older, a couple years older. So he grew up in the era of Mike Tyson. Everyone knows Mike Tyson. I mean, he is, in the 80s and 90s, I don't feel like I need to explain this, but he was as famous as it gets, at least in America, in North America, and very strong case to be made, one of the most famous athletes in the world in the 80s and 90s, and has remained such. I don't know of anyone who has not heard of Mike Tyson, no matter where they are coming from. So that was interesting. Then on Monday morning, yesterday, I dropped my son off at school, and one of the people standing outside the school comes up to me and goes like, all right, so be honest with me. Tyson's going to kick this kid's ass, right? And I was like, wow, I don't usually talk to you about fighting. But again, older person, grew up with Mike Tyson. They're aware. I said, are you going to watch it? Of course I'm going to watch it. So I'm like, all right, these are the signs. I know it's anecdotal. I know it's a small sample size, but these are the signs. Then last night, a good friend of mine visiting from Toronto at my house, haven't seen him in a year. He tells me, hey, are you working the Tyson Paul fight? Because he knows that I've worked some of those. Yes. Oh, can't wait. I said, are you going to be watching? Yes, I'm going to be watching. Again, the people in my circle aren't really fight fans. But this leads me to think that, all right, it's breaking through. There was obviously the news that canceled or delayed the fight back in June. It was supposed to happen July 20th. And I thought, quite frankly, that maybe they would pull the plug on the whole thing. And then I thought, all right, you get one bite at the apple, something like this happens, and perhaps it won't hit the same in November for various reasons. There's football. It's a Friday, not a Saturday. I don't know. But I'm starting to feel now like there's a snowball effect. And now we are 10 days out. As you can see right over there, November 15th on Netflix. If you go on the app right now, you could see, a promotion for it. You can see that there's a countdown show that is going to kick off on November 7th. That's in 2 days. And they're starting to really ramp up the promotion. If you watch, and here it is on Netflix, how it looks if you go on the app right now. If you're watching any sporting event, especially here in the United States, very good chance you're seeing a commercial or some sort of marketing for the fight, which is interesting. Now they're starting to really ramp things up around the major hubs in America. I've seen this courtesy of MVP co-founders Nikisa Badarian's Instagram page. In Atlanta, you're seeing billboards all over the place. You're seeing stuff like this. Now, I don't know where this is. Luckily for us, we do have an Atlanta, a product of Atlanta on the team. Do you know where that is, GC?
No, I really can't tell. I thought it might be at the Battery where the Braves play, but I don't think it is.
By the way, nice looking tan you got there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, wow. Spent a lot of time out in the sun. Made sure I put the sunscreen on. Yeah,
we missed you yesterday.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I missed you guys too.
Did you have a cocktail or two in our honor?
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, quite a few. Tequila shots are big down there.
Locked in on UFC Edmonton though.
Oh, locked in. Yeah, they had it on at the resort. I want to say because they took care of everything. It was all inclusive. I mean, as soon as I got in, they whisked me off as Mr. Burks and hooked me up with everything. Nothing was forgotten. Every detail met. I think them having UFC Edmonton on at the resort
was for you.
Was for me. Yeah.
A nice little nod.
Yeah, just for me.
Wow, that's 5-star treatment right there.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Anyway, so that was Atlanta. In New York, you've got these big, balloons blown up. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Here we are. That's in the heart. What is that? What is that building? That's Herald Square, right? Flatiron District. Yeah. There it is. I mean, look at Jake, and look at Mike.
He looks so good. And
in Texas as well. I do believe in Dallas, right? There's more. There it is. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. And so I wanted to talk to the guys. All right, how are we feeling? 10 days out. Are we excited? Are we intrigued? What do we think? What are we feeling? Does this feel big? Are you having these same types of interactions with people who know what you do for a living but don't usually talk to you about fights? And it's sort of like that thing we all experience with Conor to a degree. And so let's bring in some of the guys here for a discussion. What the fuck? What the fuck?
What the fuck is that?
What the fuck?
Are we addressing the beard shaving here?
Yes. What the fuck?
I didn't know if we did this yesterday or not. I didn't get a chance to see.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
It's for you. It's just for you, GC.
I thought the same thing on the Zoom, man. What happened?
It fell off, right?
You see, it fell off. Yeah, it's
No, what happened?
Were you grooming it? Were you shaping it up, and then you accidentally went like zzz and took off a big chunk, and then you had to shave the whole thing? I've done that before.
No, I was going to a barber, so he was doing all that stuff. So I was sick of it. So I bought like one of them barber in a box things yesterday because I couldn't get an appointment at barbers. And when I got it home, it had an American plug on it. So I was like, oh, I can't use this. Got the adapter today. I did attempt the shape up, went horrifically wrong. I said, let's get rid of it.
Okay, so this was a botch shape up then.
Look at this, though.
How do you feel? I mean, I don't know if I could have complimented you enough on the beard, and now I feel like you...
What did you get tired of? I think it made me
go the other way.
What did you get tired of about the beard?
The look of it, I felt a bit dirty,
insane. Yeah, that's why you needed to shape it up, man.
Yeah, that went terribly wrong.
Are we going back to like, 0 to now build it back up, or are we done with beards?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't really think that far ahead. I'm gonna live life.
Well, okay. This is almost as disappointing as when I saw Payne Talbot's hair yesterday, which was truly deflating.
Minus 1,000 more.
Yeah. Did the barber make a mistake? Is that what you were saying? Like they went and they accidentally cut?
No, he's fantastic. He knows what he's doing. I don't.
All right.
Barber in a box made the mistake. And the barber in a box is Petesy.
I mean,
all right.
This really hurts, man. We were the beard bros. We all had facial hair. We all had beards. Now
you can't attend the meetings anymore on Wednesdays. I'm sorry, Pete.
That was an issue too. Wednesdays, I can't make them.
The beard meeting. So we're gonna miss you and your jokes.
Well, this, commiserations on the departure of your beard. Let me ask you, GC, you were out and about, you were with people, so you may have had these conversations. No, I'm being serious. People talking to you about Tyson Paul, are you getting this?
I was actually going to say I've had the opposite experience as you. Actually, no one's brought it up to me. And I had to I had to mingle and do small talking with people. And, of course, one of the classic questions is, what do you do? And, media, combat sports, things like that. No one asked me about...
Okay, so now this is interesting. So I think we're getting something here. So the majority of the people that you were hanging out with were more of your age group, right? You were at a wedding.
Yeah, that actually is a good point.
So there's something there because I'm getting it from the older folk. What about you, Rick? Are you getting it?
I had 3 casual combat sports friends separately text me the quote that Mike Tyson gave, talking about like the old Mike Tyson, and that how when he comes out, he usually ends up in cuffs and wish that guy died, but he's still there. That came to me from 3 separate like casual combat sports.
Okay.
Getting the sense like my interpretation of that is them thinking like, oh man, Mike Tyson is going to murder Jake Paul. And so
and hoping for it, right?
And rooting for that, but I am starting to get the touch points from the casual people in my life.
By the way, thank you for teeing that up. We actually have that clip. That is from an interview on Impulsive recently. It's a great clip. I mean, like, all they need to do is show that. If you're an old school fight fan, an old school Tyson fan, you'll be like, oh my God, is he actually coming back at 58 years old? Is this actually possible? The guy who was biting people's ears off, or even, better than that in the late 80s and 90s, knocking people out. Here's the clip from Impulsive.
When that tough guy Mike Tyson comes out, when it's not necessary to come out, I'm always in handcuffs. So I'm very careful when that guy comes out.
You break out in handcuffs?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, man.
Every time I drink, get ready to get in a fight, I break out in handcuffs. Hey, listen, it's unfortunately I have to fight and be that guy. I wish I could stop that guy. That guy haunts me. That's I wish I could stop that guy. I wish I could stop that guy. I wish that guy died, but he's here to stay.
I wish that guy died. When he said that guy haunts me and then pauses.
Yeah.
It's freaking deep. And that's what's so great about Tyson, like talking to him or listening to his interviews. He speaks like that and he gets super deep and his voice cracks sometimes because you could tell he has this internal struggle. He's had it since the 80s. With this demon inside of him and how he doesn't like that guy and how he doesn't want that guy to come up, but that guy comes up. And so let me go to you, PT. Your situation is a little bit different because anytime someone talks to me about this fight, like, if someone comes to me with a negative approach and just like the election, there's no wrong answer. I'm happy to talk to anyone about this. I think it's all very fascinating. If you say you hate this, God bless. If you say you love this, God bless. If you say you're going to have a party at your house and you're just going to have a good night and watch a spectacle, God bless. But your perspective, I think, is really interesting because anytime it comes up, okay, I feel this way, I feel that way, I say, but the co-main event is a rematch of one of the greatest fights of all time that headlined MSG. Not a token fight, not an influencer fight. Two of the greatest female fighters of all time, two of the greatest boxers of all time, who headlined MSG, who sold out MSG, who put on one of the great fights in the last couple decades. And so even if you are not into the main event, stick around for that and then make your decision about the main event because the co-main event is worth every single, moment of build up and whatever you're paying for your subscription and all that stuff. And so you come from the country where one of those people is probably the most famous athlete to come out of that country, certainly in combat sports, and it's Katie Taylor. And so what is your perspective? Are people just talking to you about Katie, or are they talking to you about both? What is the reaction?
Well, look, first of all, I think what you said there, like if you love it, if you hate it, let's not joke around. The lifeblood of this event is controversy. When they put these two guys together, they knew what reaction they were getting, and that reaction has actually blown up the interest around the fight. People feel one way or the other. We always say it about combat sports athletes. The worst thing you can get is no reaction. A reaction in any way in combat sports is a great thing. That's what the lifeblood of this event is. The interesting thing is, from a media point of view, having this rematch, having this Katie Taylor fight with Amanda Serrano, that is so interesting to me, and it's a stroke of genius really from the promoters because a lot of media, a lot of boxing media don't like this stuff, this Jake Paul stuff. They don't like that this bout is bringing together two guys, the largest disparity in a professional boxing match of all time. They don't like that. But the problem is they cannot ignore Taylor v. Serrano too. And that's genius because as much as they would like to turn a blind eye to this, the mainstream media cannot turn a blind eye to this in terms of sport because of what's happening there. That's a real stroke of genius. And I'm going to delve into this next week. I have a written piece scheduled on Uncrowned next week about this because what Katie Taylor means to Ireland is far more than this is a great boxer. This is a beacon of what sporting purity is. This is a role model like no other. There are no marks against this woman's name. And then to put her with this Jake Paul thing is just so interesting. Let's not forget that women's boxing would not be an Olympic sport without Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor went to the OC and convinced them to make it a sport in 2012, went on to win the gold medal. It's like a fairy tale story. It's an incredibly interesting thing they've done there. And really, the more I think about it, the more I do think it's genius from the promoter, putting this pure beacon of sporting brilliance, Katie Taylor, on the undercard of what many people think is a complete circus fight. It's very interesting.
Yeah, the juxtaposition is fascinating as well because you could imagine that Katie, if not involved, would be like, I don't feel so great about all this stuff. But here she is as the co-main, and there she is on the dais in New York sitting next to Mike Tyson and completely like fangirling over him and saying how big of a deal this is for her to be sitting next to him, and how excited she is to be on the card with him, and how she never thought this would be possible, and how she wanted to meet him. And Tyson's just like, wow, nice to meet you. I had no idea. I don't even know if Tyson knew who she was, and that's no knock on her, but that's just, Mike being Mike. Your level of excitement, GC, as of right now, 10 days out, are you pumped for this? Are you feeling it? Is it tingling inside? It's a fascinating one as well because it's the night before John Jones.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I thought maybe would be a detriment to the buildup. How are you feeling about it?
All right, so I don't think I'm at tingling quite yet. I am excited. I think I'm just overall excited for the entire weekend. I think the fact that 309 is the night after is like carrying my excitement. I would say for Jake Paul, Mike Tyson specifically right now, I am at a 7. I think I can get to a 10 by next week. I think right now I'm at a 7.
What about you, Rick?
Probably in that same.
Oh, Mike's not on.
Sorry. I'm probably in that same range, 7 or 8. I need to get into fight week. I need to feel them together. I need to see what version of Tyson we're getting, because in the media tour that started before the original date, which feels like now ages ago, it was fun, laughy Uncle Mike. I want to see this version, the one that we're seeing like the training photos of, where he's talking about murdering Jake Paul, and what version we get in the press conference now, right? Is that switch flipped, and then I can get higher. Then I can really get to that 10 range.
What about you, PZ?
Credit to Netflix for doing this pre-fight stuff, because I think that can get me even more excited.
Sure, 100%.
Well,
What about you?
The GC, this is the best point that's been made about this. Why is this sudden surge in conversation? Nearly 300 million people have had this beamed into their homes since Monday, that this fight is coming out. The countdown is out on Thursday. That's worth its weight in gold. You can't ignore that. How many people come home from work in the evening and stick on Netflix, and there straight away, Jake Paul v. Mike Tyson? That's incredible marketing. Like, it really is. Like, never mind these balloons, all this stuff in people's homes. How much money would any promoter in the world pay for that? It's incredible. And I haven't seen anything like it. I was blown away by it when I saw it earlier this week. In terms of interest in the fight, I'm so interested in the fight. I'm interested in so many different ways. The reaction to it. The contest itself, it isn't the most interesting thing for me. It's what this looks like on Netflix. What way it can potentially go wrong here as well. Like, there's so many different outcomes you can think of where Netflix will be like, oh, well, we don't want to touch this again. But in terms of Katie Taylor and Serrano, how that balances itself with this, what's that going to look like next week? I'm really interested in all that stuff. Like, I feel like it's one of these things that you can't miss no matter how you feel about it. You have to experience it.
I do want to mention, full disclosure, I am working the broadcast, so I do want to make note of that. I do want to ask you, though, to follow up with that, PT. What is the best case scenario for Netflix and MVP? MVP is the promoter that you were talking about. Netflix, this is their first foray into live combat sports. Obviously, the WWE deal starts in January, but perhaps if this is a smashing success, we get more of this type of stuff come 2025 and beyond. In your opinion, what's a best case scenario?
A best case scenario is a competitive fight. A fight that looks competitive, a fight where we feel like both these guys are trying, and they're both in there. I think the worst case scenario is Jake Paul going in and laying out Mike in round 1, and then all these moral questions will pop up immediately about why are we putting a guy this young in against a guy that old. That's inevitable.
Yeah.
You don't think that Mike Tyson winning could be the best case scenario, like a knockout?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's not where my head's at right now.
Are you saying that, Rick, because if Tyson wins, that kind of like is vindication?
It's vindication for the fight. It's vindication for the event. It's vindication for Netflix being involved. It will go, like, if Jake Paul knocks out Mike Tyson, it's going to go everywhere. I ultimately think that will probably still be a win for Netflix. If Mike Tyson knocks out Jake Paul, there won't be a place on earth you could look that wouldn't have that playing on a screen. And so I would imagine that that's the best case scenario for them, is Mike Tyson turns back the clock and knocks Jake Paul cold out. I also don't think it hurts Jake Paul's brand too bad. I've said this before. I say it every time we talk about this. Losses don't really mean anything. Wins and losses for Jake Paul don't really mean anything. He's not going to be a championship level boxer. He is an attraction, and he will continue to be an attraction. So I don't think it hurts him too bad, and it's also Mike freaking Tyson. And I think there's an element of this fight that people are starting to wonder, does Mike still have it? Can he turn back the clock? And I knew this would happen. I knew that would start to pop up. I am starting to see people start to ask that question.
Before that last point, right before you said that last point, I was going to say, all right, I can understand that would be best case for Netflix, 100%. For MVP, I think that would be worst case. I think best case for
Teflon, man.
best case for MVP, close fight, Jake wins at the end.
You don't think if he knocks him out, you think that it would look too garish, right?
Well, here's the thing. You could also make the case if he does beat up the older Mike Tyson, he's the ultimate heel.
And that would work too.
That works too, right? Because they're not getting out of like he owns MVP. They're not getting out of the Jake Paul business, but they have more fights. Like I think we are legitimately 2 years away from Jake Paul Canelo. I don't think Jake Paul Canelo is a crazy thing. And I could 100% see Canelo saying, yeah, I'll take that at the end of my career. Why the hell not? If he keeps this going, if he's still fighting in 2 years, Jake, and I see no reason why. And so if he gets outclassed or knocked out by Mike Tyson, it's hard to keep this going for that much longer because he is the 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Not to diminish, who he is as a person and as a fighter, but it's still 58 versus 28.
Just to play devil's advocate, let me ask you, why? Why is Canelo boxing Jake Paul because he's a great boxer?
No, he's boxing him to make a lot of money, and he doesn't generate the same kind of money if he's a shell of his current self.
I think this is... Wait, you're talking about Jake?
Jake, yes.
I think this is where we differ.
If Jake loses his next 3 fights, there's no money to be made in a Canelo-Jake fight. If Jake wins his next 3 fights, including knocking out Mike Tyson, he's the ultimate bad guy. He's beating people up. And here comes Canelo Alvarez to save the day for the sweet science. I could see it. Again, please be clear about this. I'm not advocating for it, but you could see it right there. It's literally right there.
I think the path is still there even if he loses to Tyson. Personally.
There's not the same money attached to it.
You just beat 2 more people and then you're back in the same...
You think Netflix wants to be in that business? If he's on a 3-fight losing streak?
No, but again, I mean, we're now projecting a 3-fight losing streak that didn't even happen.
You said
just Tyson.
He's Teflon to losses. Is it just for this fight, or is it for all fights?
Well, I don't imagine his next fight, if he gets knocked out by Mike Tyson, is against somebody with the skills.
No, but like if his next fight is against Tommy Fury and he loses to him,
then maybe it's. But I think he'd be reconsidering his career at that point.
Yeah,
right. You can't go Mike Tyson loss, Tommy Fury loss, Canelo Alvarez.
No, 100%.
Certainly from Tyson to Canelo, like that's.
But can you see Tyson to Canelo?
I see what you're saying now. If he knocks out Mike Tyson, beats Mike Tyson, whatever it is, he is going to be the ultimate heel. He's going to be the most hated boxer out there. And then if he wins a couple more fights, you throw him in with Canelo. Canelo's a massive favorite. He's going to win the fight, and everybody tunes in to watch Jake Paul get beat.
I think we got some time.
Or Jake Paul shocks the world. And
in a way, he's already the ultimate heel for taking this fight, for making this fight.
Oh yeah, everyone is cheering for Mike Tyson. That is one thing. Not a ton of people are talking about it, but when they do talk to me about it, it is like my parents have asked me about it, and they really want to see Mike Tyson win.
Oh, so there you go. Someone did. You said a couple minutes ago, no one's.
I was talking about the wedding.
You could have given me the parents. The parents was the point that I was trying to prove. The
old people are into this.
Everything.
Young
at 50, like mid 40s to mid 60s, everybody's interested in it. Like it's.
By the way, it wasn't so long ago after he lost to Tommy Fury that it was like, what's Jake Paul gonna do? And then he's in a fight on Netflix with Mike Tyson. The options are unlimited for him. I don't think one sets him back. Now, if he loses 3 in a row, if we're forecasting that, I certainly don't think Canelo's on the table anymore. But if he loses this, and if it's competitive, like he can go fight Tommy Fury, beat him, beat another guy, and I think it's right back the same.
You can change your opinion 10 more times, but as of right this moment, Rick, what happens?
Man,
Jake wins.
I think Jake Paul is going to knock out Mike Tyson.
Early?
Yeah, probably.
GC?
2-minute rounds, yeah?
Yeah.
I think Jake Paul wins by decision.
By the way, who is the favorite?
Jake Paul.
Big?
Let's get the exact odds right now.
In the meantime, Petesy?
Jake Paul knocks him out.
Wow. Early?
Yeah.
By the way,
minus 275 Jake Paul.
By the 4th round.
Mike Tyson
won't go beyond the 4th.
This is why it's the ultimate. Like, tomorrow. Well, not starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, people are going to be talking about election. But like next week, I could see barbershops all around the world, all around America, talking about this. Right, having this exact discussion.
To Petesy's point that he said earlier, The contest itself, I'm at like a 7 out of 10. You know, I'm just curious to see what happens. But everything surrounding it, like the memes that you're going to get off, the takes they're going to get off, the spectacle that it's going to be. He talked about it. Like, it doesn't really matter how excited I am for it. This is a must-see event. I have to watch it no matter what.
To Petesy's other point, this is going to be on your homepage on Netflix that everybody opens up. This is the best possible advertising and why Netflix getting into a live combat business makes a lot of sense. That event is going to be advertised on their platform every single time you open that app. And that is, you can't pay for that. Petesy said, what would it cost? It is invaluable. You cannot pay for that kind of real estate. Only if you are the carrier of it, and Netflix is, can you get that kind of promotion.
Yeah, and I perhaps I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff. If I wasn't working it, I'd be curious to see what it looks like on Netflix, like the production. Oh, yeah. Because that's part of the story in its own right? This will be the same broadcast for everyone, whether you're in Europe or South America, Central America, North America, it doesn't matter. And so that is interesting in its own right. Plenty more as it pertains to this fight. And I'm curious what our next guest thinks about it as well. In my opinion, he's the gold standard. He's the one leading the charge when it comes to things like rules and regulations, when it comes to sanctioning, when it comes to everything pertaining to combat sports. There is no commission better than the California State Athletic Commission, and there is no one person better than the executive director of the California State Athletic Commission, Mr. Andy Foster. He is kind enough to join us off the bat here. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Hi, Ariel. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, as always. I always enjoy these chats very much. We are coming off a somewhat spirited chat about Tyson and Paul, which is 10 days away. Could I ask you, considering your job and considering what you do for a living, how do you feel about this fight?
I'm glad it's. I wish Texas all the best with that fight.
Okay, that you'll leave it at that. In other words, not a fight that you would have been interested in having in California.
No.
Can I ask why?
Well, remember, Ariel, I turned down the Evander Holyfield versus was it Vitor Belfort?
Yes.
It kind of escapes me, but yeah, a few years ago, I just these are not the kind of fights I'm wanting. You know, remember I pioneered the kind of the influencer type fights, and I've got no problem with exhibitions, but if you're talking about real fight with gambling lines and the whole thing, these are I don't see how this is. I'm glad somebody else is doing this one.
Okay.
Something that I'm gonna do.
Fair enough. I appreciate the candor and the answer there. Part of the reason why we wanted to have you on was to talk about a big weekend when it comes to rules and regulations as far as mixed martial arts is concerned. We spoke to you back in January about your desire to update the 12-6 elbow rule and to essentially get rid of it, and then to also amend the downed opponent rule. And you told us about a vote that was coming up, and it passed, and then another vote in July, and that passed. And then here we are, November 1st, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and both of these updates, if you will, are in play. We played the video that you guys put out yesterday on the program with Mike Beltran and Uriah Faber. Loved it. Very, very informative, I should say. And obviously, in a 2.5 minute clip, it told us everything we needed to know. Now that you saw it all come into play over the weekend, your thoughts?
Everything went just fine. I didn't see any of the game being played. And then with the 12-6 elbow, even with Cody Gibson, Ariel, I know there's some discussion about that, an article or whatever, and I know Jaron might have mentioned something, but I don't think that would have been called a 12-6 elbow last week. Our refs weren't calling it, so that change is essentially not a change. It's just basically getting rid of it. The change with the grounded fighter, that's a real change. And we didn't see the game this weekend. And I think we'll get rid of that. And in that respect, even though it's less restrictive of a rule, you may end up with more clarity, and it's certainly easier to officiate. It is less restrictive, so I'm not going to sit here and say this is safer, but it's more clear. So I think athletes will probably become safer because they won't stick their hand down on the ground without knowing they can be smashed. And if they get hit, they're probably not going to do it again.
And so when you say the game, that was when people, had the two soles of their feet on the ground. They'd put one hand down, they'd put two hands down. Now you have to have a knee on the ground or a forearm on the ground to be considered down, right?
Or something, something, get on your back, something.
Sure.
Just,
yes.
But not, I mean, like really, if you just think about a grounded opponent, a grounded fighter, it makes sense. If you're going to be grounded, put your knee on the floor. That's a grounded fighter.
Were there times where you were watching this and it would just drive you nuts and be like, this is not intelligently defending yourself? Like, what was the impetus for this? Was it the Arnold Allen fight back in January of last year?
That one up in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at that point, I just had enough with it because it had happened at the Contender not too long before that. And it was causing a problem every three events. You'd have one of these issues. And that's the kind of thing where where regulation does need to fix this. We can fix this through a rule. Because it's really hard to officiate that too. So the referees were having a hard time, and you get a different interpretation from the different referee. Now it's very clear. Like if the knee's on the ground, something else on the ground, you're down. You're not. And it's less restrictive. So the fighters probably know better about it as well.
In addition to being the executive director of the California State Athletic Commission, you're also the chairman of the Rules Committee of the Association of Boxing Commissions. So you can actually help make these changes and drive those agendas. Did you feel a lot of resistance when you were trying to make this happen last year?
Zero resistance really with the 12-6 elbow. The grounded fighter, it took a little bit of discussion because we had tried something back in was it 2015 or 16, whenever it was, and that didn't work out as well because it didn't take away enough restrictions. This just ended it. Like you just either your knee's down or it's not. And it took a little bit of convincing to a few of the regulators. Interestingly, the doctors were all fine with it because they think it's easier to officiate. And if it's easier to officiate, it's probably going to be safer for the athletes because there's not this level of confusion that goes around it. Ariel, I'll tell you, anytime the referee has to get involved and tell the top fighter if a fighter's down or not, that's not a great idea. That's not great. Don't knee him, he's down. We don't want our referees having those levels of discussions with fighters.
And so you told me back in January when we spoke about this, I asked you about knees to a grounded opponent. Your quote was that it was too dangerous. Maybe one day I'll get there. Almost a year later, and with this process now in the rearview mirror, do you still feel the same way?
You talking about the one rules, like the?
Yeah.
I'm not there. I might get there one day. I'm just not there. I do think that could substantively change the way that we view some of this. Some of those really good wrestlers, and we've already saw it. I'm not guessing. We've saw it in Pride. Some of those really good wrestlers can use that. So yeah, I'm not quite there yet, and that is a safety thing from my perspective. I think that is more dangerous than what we're doing now.
When this news came out, when it was passed, John Jones, whose lone loss was due to a 12-6 elbow against Matt Hamill back in the day, Steve Mazzagatti, said that it was illegal. He kind of came out and said, all right, like, can you get rid of this L on my record? Dana White as well, saying that it should be removed. There's the tweet from John Jones, undefeated then, undefeated now. Dana White, we got to get that loss out of the history books. Is that something that can even happen in your opinion, or does that not make any sense 14 years later to change that?
Well, I mean, the rule was what it was then. It's different now. It'd be hard to go back. I'd be actually supportive of getting rid of that, but it's not my decision. But I'm not, I think it's hard to go back with the rule being different than it is now.
To be clear, you'd be supportive of that loss being overturned to a win, or to just a no contest?
Yeah, to a no contest.
Yeah. Wow. Because I thought you would say it was a rule back then. He broke the rule. It's got to remain an L.
I didn't like the way it was enforced back then, but that was just, I mean, that's 14 years ago.
Sure. Can I ask why? Did you not think it was a clean 12-6?
I think there were, yeah, I mean, look, we're talking about 14 years later.
Sure.
And at the time, I thought there were other ways that you could, you might could handle that situation other than just flat giving the guy a loss.
Got it. Yep. Taking a point away or something like that.
Sure. There's a lot of, look, Ariel, since we're on this topic, just in general, a disqualification should be the last resort a referee goes to. That should be after you used all the tools in your toolbox. And we train these guys and we teach them at nauseum. I know John McCarthy and the rest of the guys do. You've got a lot of things you can go to, a lot of things you can look at. And let's do that before we disqualify people. Herb Dean, probably the gold standard referee in the world, like right now. You'll see him, and he'll methodically go through everything before. I don't know if I've seen Herb disqualify somebody. I can't think of. I'm sure I have, but I can't think of one right off the top of my head. But he's very good at going through a lot of different things before you ever get to that point.
While we're on that topic, one thing that I see a lot of people complain about is the use of warnings versus actual point deductions. Meaning, the joke is like it pays to cheat, especially in MMA, because you can do stuff that you clearly shouldn't be allowed to do, grabbing hold of the fence, kneeing someone below the belt, something like that, and you just get a warning, and sometimes it happens 2-3 times before the referee takes the point away. How do we fix that?
Well, I mean, that's a training issue, and that's something that we have talked about. The refs are mic'd up. So, like, the first thing is if it's not worth a warning, don't open your mouth, okay? Like, sometimes you'll just have incidental contact, and the fighter didn't need the warning. If you have to discuss a warning with somebody, there's soft warnings and there's hard warnings, And if you give somebody a hard warning once, probably the next time, the point needs to come off. And if you're not using your toolbox, if you're not using it, then we really need to find somebody else that will, because this idea of warning is a disservice to the other fighter.
The idea that I've thrown out, and far be it for me to pretend like I'm an official, I'm not. Can't we live in a world where the warning happens in the locker room and then the infraction happens in the cage? There's the point. For example, if we were to equate this to, say, a football game, you face mask someone, you hit them pass interference, there's an infraction there, and there's a penalty attached to it. There's no warning on that. Can't it be the same?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm in the back. I've watched Herb and Mike Beltran and the guys, Mark Goddard, everybody I know that goes back there and does these rules meetings. They all say, look, this is your warning now. Okay, if we get out there, your warnings now, even though they say that and they're serious, they'll probably still give like a hard warning before they start going into the point box. But that's always helpful if you establish it very, very clearly. And Ariel, just to your point, going back to the locker room one-on-one and having these discussions with these athletes, these rules meetings, so that they know the referee and the referee knows them, and they've had this is very helpful in keeping the kind of infractions down that where you won't need the warnings.
So what is next on the hit list now for you? All right, you got 12-6 out of the way. We changed the definition of a downed opponent. What would you like to do next?
I'm not a big proponent of changing rules all the time. So I
modifying, evolving, updating.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that I would like some more focus on the MMA judging. And actually people to do some statistics and look at some stats on those things, because I feel like the judging has improved a lot, especially in the last 15 years. If you go back and you look 15 years ago to now, it's improved, and I think these judges are doing you don't have an objective indicator like you do in boxing. You don't have the knockdown. You have 5 minutes that you've got to concentrate. They've got one angle of the cage. There's a lot of pieces to it, and I think judging mixed martial arts is hard, and I think these guys are doing the best they can, and they get criticized every weekend for it, but it's part of the job. It's okay, but and sometimes there are bad decisions. I'm not saying that there's not, but sometimes the fight's just close.
That's interesting. I actually thought you were going to go in a different direction there. I agree that it has obviously gotten better to a degree, but there are so many events all over the world. Sometimes it's a little frustrating when the UFC, in particular, they are the top dog, goes to a market that they're not often in, not a Nevada or a California, and it's like a local guy gets an opportunity, and that guy tends to be the dissenter, and it's very clear that he isn't quite up to snuff. You know what I mean? Like, he shouldn't be officiating the highest level of MMA.
I 100% agree with that statement. I mean, 100%. Like, you've got to. This is the highest level of mixed martial arts, and you've got to have your highest level of officials doing this, whether it's the referees, the judges, or whichever position. I think that these higher level judges, though, should be trying to educate some of the up and comers and stuff. But the time to get learning on a big fight, it's not the UFC.
I still feel like the 10-point must system isn't quite the right model. And I'm saying this acknowledging that I don't have a better answer. But to your point, it is a boxing model, and there's clear indicators in boxing as to what is a 10-8 or a 10-7. We don't have that. Duration, damage, dominance, like, these are all very subjective terms. Do you have any idea how this can get better?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think I lost my audio with you, Ariel, but
I was cooking right there. Do you hear me or no? Do you hear me? Do you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, wow. It was maybe the smartest thing I've ever said, if I'm being honest, and you missed it. Now, my question was, you said earlier in boxing, there's a clear indicator as to what is a 10-8, what's a 10-7.
Sure.
10-point must system is a boxing scoring system, and I still feel like our criteria, when I say our, in MMA, damage, duration, dominance, these things are very subjective terms. There isn't those clear indicators. And so I was wondering from your perspective, which is a much smarter one than mine, is there a way that this can get better? Do you have an idea? Because I say this fully acknowledging that I don't have a solution in mind.
I have thought about this so much, and I don't have a great answer to that. Some people say, well, let's go to half points. I think you'll mess it up worse. I think the top level judges are scoring pretty consistently right now. They're actually scoring more consistent than the top level boxing judges. I want you to think about what I just told you. They're scoring more consistent without an objective indicator. So that's kind of an interesting statistic in itself. But I think that I think we just need more and more training on this model, and then really there's been a lot of focus recently about the use of damage and how it's the number one scoring criteria, and a lot of the fighters are starting to heed that message of how the scoring works. I think for a long time, the fighters weren't aware of exactly how the judges were scoring it. So, for example, I mean, this is just an example that I see sometimes, and far be it for me to tell the fighters how to conduct their fight. But, like, I've seen them get, like, mounted or they'll take the rear mount, and they'll be trying for this rear naked choke for a long time, and they're burning up time. And you see another fighter who takes their back and just pounds the fighter, punches the entire time. Well, that fighter that punches the entire time is scoring more points with the judges that are all three sitting there. The one that are going for the choke, I mean, yeah, they're scoring, they're winning, but they're not getting the same amount of attention from the judge as the other one.
Did you watch Better Be of Bivol?
No, I did not, actually.
That was the one in Riyadh, October 12th. It was very controversial. I was curious how you scored that one, because Eddie Hearn was saying that it was one of the worst decisions of all time. Obviously, his guy lost, so I was curious about that. Could I ask if you saw the Jose Aldo fight in Brazil? There was a big talking point coming out of that fight. Conor McGregor was actually leading the charge about stalling and about penalizing people who are stalling up against the cage too much, and when the referee should intervene, should there be a deduction, whatnot? Is there any way to curtail stalling, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think we should use the timidity foul more than we do. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to take the point, but I mean, I saw Mike Beltran take a point with a timidity foul one time, but it's not used very much, and it's sitting there in the rules. So the fact that, I mean, if you have a stop, look, I mean, Ariel, this is sports entertainment in some respect. I know we're regulating the sport, but part of it's sports entertainment. We have to keep this thing moving along. And I don't think just stalling somebody down, riding out the clock, trying to get the 10 and the other person gets 9 so you can win is kind of the idea of what we're doing here. So let's move it along. You've got to fight. It's martial arts. You got to fight.
So how does the referee know when to pull that out, when to actually take a point away for timidity?
Well, they know. Every referee that I know trains all the time, everyone. So they know what they're doing. They just need to have confidence that the regulator is going to support their decision. But this needs to be moved on. I mean, you don't need to just, you've got to move this thing along. That's the way that I view it. And if you've tried the same takedown multiple times and you're winding up against the fence multiple times, it's incumbent upon, it's incumbent upon the official to, I mean, you can only do so much as an official. The fighter's going to fight the way that they fight, but you can keep it somewhat moving.
I understand why some people would be upset. I also feel like sometimes it's hard to tell, are they working, are they not working? Like when you see two fighters pressed up against the cage and there's not a ton going on, like from your perspective, can you tell when it should be broken up? Now, I'm not even talking about timidity. I'm just saying when the referee should intervene and break them up.
I mean, I think you give the benefit of the doubt for about 30 seconds.
Okay.
I mean, the round's 5 minutes. You're given 30 seconds. If nothing's happened in 30 seconds, we need to get the thing moving in a different direction. Let's restart. Let's break and let's fight them again. I mean, because I think if the fighter that is pushing the other fighter up against the fence, the onus is on them to either create a takedown or create some kind of advantage with it. And if there's really no advantage and the other fighter is just playing defense, trying not to get taken down, after about 30 seconds, I think that's probably enough, unless something magical's happening.
I don't know if you've been to our new website, uncrowned.com. The great Keith Idek did a story on Oshaki Foster, who fought last weekend, and talked about open scoring and how he enjoyed it so much when he was able to fight in a fight that was using open scoring. Have you changed your stance on open scoring? This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm still not Ariel, I think that you lose the third round in MMA. I really do. I think that if a fighter's up 2-0, there's a difference between, and I've been saying this, I said this to you last time, I think there's a difference between fighting to win and fighting not to lose. And I think if they know they're ahead, some fighters will take the risk, but a lot of fighters would just kind of fight enough not to get knocked out or stopped. They'd be more defensive than if they didn't know the score, if they thought it was close going into 3. Because that's really what we're talking about, right? I mean, if they're up really, really heavy in rounds 1 and 2, they can probably just beat the guy easily in round 3, and that's no problem. And on the same token, you don't want a guy who's just been losing pretty badly to know he's down 2 and take unnecessary risk that he wouldn't ordinarily take or she would ordinarily take. There's lots of issues with it, but losing the third round's been my concern about the open scoring.
That's where the timidity, punishment comes into play. If you're just too defensive and on your bike, so to speak, you get a warning, you get penalized.
That's an argument for it. And one of my arguments for it's one of the most iconic moments that we have in our sport is when Bruce or Michael Buffer gets in there and it's either and still or new. I mean, that's kind of an iconic moment that everybody loves.
Okay. I mean, I think you could still get that. It's just maybe the element of surprise isn't there. You'll still get them saying it. You just kind of know a couple of minutes before. We're not telling them to not do it. But fair enough. I understand. You introduced the MMA retirement fund a few months back. How is that going? Is there any update you can share on that?
It's going very well. We're collecting. We're depositing money. We're doing we're absolutely making progress with that. We're making progress with some other projects that we have that will help fund that. None of these things are cost the fighters anything. So I hope to give you an update in 4 or 5 months and let you know some more things about what's going on with that. But that's been absolutely going just spectacular so far.
The last time we spoke, we talked about bare knuckle fighting and power slap coming to California. How do you feel about those two combat sports now that they've had events there?
We haven't had a power slap event yet. We've had
When's the power slap one?
We haven't had one.
Oh, you made the right choice to forget about it. No, I'm kidding.
We don't have one, but with bare knuckle, we've got one coming up on the 23rd of November. The thing with bare knuckle, Ariel, I'm still not like me personally. It's not what I necessarily like to watch, but it's not more dangerous. There's a lot of cuts, but it's not more dangerous in my view than the other things that we do. And there's a lot of skill involved in that. It's a little bit different. It's a lot faster than boxing, but has a lot of cuts in that, which is fine. It's just part of the sport. It's just cuts. But there's I've yet to see the same kind of neurological damage that sometimes you get from boxing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there was one in April as well, right? Knucklemania?
Yeah, we did. We've done 2. We've done one at Pachanga, and we've done one. Yeah, we did Knucklemania.
Right. How do you feel about power slap now?
Well, I mean, we're seeing more and more of it. Stuff was coming whether we stepped in or not. It was already here. And so we're going to regulate it if they choose to bring it, but they've not brought it.
Okay. Can I ask, and before we go, and thank you, I love picking your brain on this stuff. Weight cutting. You've intervened when there's excessive. What is the word that I'm looking for? Like adding weight post weight cut. When it's too much, you'll intervene. But we've seen some scary scenes of people on the scale looking all kinds of out of sorts and shaking and all this stuff. How do you feel about the current state of weight cutting?
It's still the biggest problem in mixed martial arts. I mean, there's no question about it. Here in California, we kind of there's a lot of fighters, so I'm not saying every one, but we have a lot of notes and a lot of stuff on these different athletes. So we're trying to get ahead of it, and we check, and we almost annoy people because we do weight checks with them and stuff on a periodic basis. But another thing that I've been doing, Ariel, is, did one a couple of weeks ago is I just had to cancel the fight. One of the fighters gained about 30 pounds and the other fighter lost weight from the weigh-in. That's not okay. So we weren't able to move forward with that fight.
Which promotion was that?
It was might have been it was at Commerce. I'd have to get back.
Okay.
I forget.
So so you felt like the gap was too big?
Yeah.
And when was that? Was that 24 hours later?
Well, they had weighed in, and then we weighed them again. So when they got to the event,
got it.
And then an example I can give you that I do remember that I canceled. Steffi Cohen, she's a boxer. This was at Tom Loeffler's show. She had gained a lot. I forget how much. Maybe she went to 128, and her opponent had lost weight. And I didn't want to regulate that fight because there was a lot of weight difference. In a particular fight.
Do you know that Danny Ige story back in late June where he took a fight on 3 hours notice? When Brian Ortega pulled out of the UFC event, it was super unique. Diego Lopez was his opponent. They call up Danny Ige, and there he is, and they had the weigh-in in the back. You know about this story? That was the UFC 303.
I don't know.
It was UFC
Yeah.
303 was Brian Ortega against Diego Lopez, and Ortega got sick, and they called Ige, who wasn't on the card. And I was just surprised that Nevada let it go on. It was a great story and ended up being a great fight, but without doing like the proper medical checks. And he was supposed to fight a few weeks later, and so maybe that was all out the window. Would you feel comfortable doing something like that, where there's a fight that there's an opponent who pulls out, there's a need for a replacement, but this guy wasn't scheduled to compete on the night. It was super unique.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, Ariel. Remember, I did it. Now it was the day before, but remember, I think his name was Junior Tafa.
Yep.
He fought. I forget who he fought.
It was his brother, right?
But yeah, his brother was scheduled to fight, and I forgot what happened to his brother. He didn't feel good. I forget, but he had to pull out. But he had already completed all his medicals because he was getting ready to fight at another event. So they just moved him in. They asked me, "Is this okay?" And I talked to him for a little while, and I said, "Sure, it's fine." He'd been training. Yeah, as long as they have been training and they passed their medicals and the doctor says it's okay, I'm fine with it. Especially with the UFC, because they're not going to make bad fights. If you have this happen at another promotion, you got to also look at whether this fight's super competitive or not. But I don't know if I've ever saw. I'm sure I have, but it's been a long time since I saw a grossly uncompetitive UFC fight.
Yeah. By the way, congratulations! Back in August, the North American Boxing Federation named you guys Commission of the Year and named you in particular Executive Officer of the Year. I think both for the 10th straight year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's been we Dwayne and the people at the North American Boxing Federation, they're very kind. We
10
work
in a
lot
row.
with them.
I mean, that is pretty darn impressive. When I say gold standard, I don't just throw that around. That's gold standard stuff right there.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
How do we get everyone to be as good as California? What do we need to do?
Well, I mean, I will tell you that this state, California in particular, there's a lot of emphasis, Ariel, on athletes and doing things right. California likes the boxing commission more or less. There's a lot of interest. The Department of Consumer Affairs is very supportive of the boxing commission. The administration. So, I think a lot of that's just the support that we have across the spectrum. And another thing is you've just got to hire, in my view, I think you've got to hire good people. I mean, a lot of people, I'm on your show sometimes, so they might know my name, but we're defined by the officials that we put in there. Herb Dean, Mike Beltran, Frank Trigg. I've got Chris Lieben coming up, who's doing really good right now. I've got some really, what I consider to be high-level officials in both sports that are coming on. And I think that that's the way that you can improve the commission, is using those top-level officials.
One last one for you, because it will be a talking point next week. Women's boxing, 2-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds. What do you favor?
I'm in favor of 2-minute rounds, but it's not because I would be in favor of men going to 2-minute rounds. Okay.
For boxing.
But because I think it might make the sport more exciting. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that an MMA fight with 5 rounds is 25 minutes. I think you could have a 24-minute boxing match and it'd be just as good as a 36-minute, maybe even better. And I bet it would be safer, because usually you start seeing the more of the injuries later in the fight. But that's neither here nor there. I know boxing in 2-minute rounds, they have the Serrano fight coming up.
Yep.
That was a very exciting fight with the female. So I like the idea of 2-minute rounds. But if a female wants to fight 3 minutes here, the rules, we have it defaulted at 2 minutes. But if they come and they say they want to fight 3 minutes, there's no problem, as long as both parties agree. It's not like a thing where we would not allow it.
Okay. Well, appreciate the time and the candor as always, Andy. I know you don't do these often, so it's a great privilege for us. Congratulations on getting those 2 rules updated. Very exciting stuff, and congratulations on all the great work you're doing in combat sports.
Thank you, Ariel. Appreciate
All right,
it.
talk to you soon. There he is, the great Andy Foster, the executive director of the California State Athletic Commission. And I didn't even think of this. I'm having him on. He technically works for the state, right? I mean, this is election day. He might have been busy today, but he took some time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about all of this. So shout out to him. A lot of interesting stuff there, certainly as it pertains to weight cutting. And I still maintain, I'm still going to bang that drum. Open scoring. There's a great article from Keith Idek on the uncrowned.com page right now. Defense rests how O'Shaquie Foster found out the hard way that boxing judging isn't what it seems. He was there. Due to the events rarely seen use of open scoring, Foster knew he was down on 2 scorecards through 10 rounds of their 12-round fight for Foster's WBC super featherweight title. In Cancun, a year ago, Canadian judge Ed Pearson had Hernandez ahead 97-93. He was fighting Eduardo Rocky Hernandez, whereas Venezuelan judge Nicolas Hidalgo, rather ridiculously, had it a shutout for the challenger 100-90. Argentine judge Jorge Gorini scored it for Foster entering the 11th round 96-93. How the hell is that possible? 100-90 for one guy and then 96-93, 97-93 for the other guy? The overall unfavorable math made Foster fight more aggressively because the American champion knew he needed to knock out Mexico City's Hernandez to successfully defend the WBC 130-pound crown he won in his previous bout. A fiercer Foster rocked Hernandez early in the 11th round and overcame Hernandez's hard shots later in the 11th round. Foster then dropped the gutsy challenger twice in the 12th round, leading referee Hector Afutu stepped between them to stop their bout with 22 seconds left. It was just one of those things like, quote, you got to catch him or you're going to lose, Foster told Uncrowned's Keith Idek. That's all I kept telling myself. You're going to lose. You got to catch him. Land something big. See? Open scoring. It's a beautiful thing. You don't get those moments without it. Incredible. Okay, Sunday night, we get the press release. DAZN Queensberry, massive deal. Beginning April 1st, 2025, multi-year deal. Now under the umbrella with the likes of Matchroom. Huge for the sport, huge for DAZN, further cementing their place as the home of all things boxing, working with multiple promoters. This is good, this is healthy, and obviously Matchroom and Queensberry have been working together for the past year or so with the Riyadh season events. Wanted to talk to the founder of Queensberry Promotions, the best-dressed man in combat sports about it all, and he's kind enough to join us. He is the great Frank Warren. There he is. Hello, Frank. How are you?
I'm okay, Ariel. So I'm in the car at the moment, driving back from London. So I do apologise.
No, it's okay. I see you on all those rinky-dink YouTube channels, and I see you talking to them in fancy offices and stuff. And for us, we get the car. I mean, wow, we're really that low on the totem pole, huh?
Well, I'll tell you, and that is not respectful of me. I do apologise.
It's okay. It's all good. We still love you. Congratulations on this deal. And can I want to give you props, Frank, off the bat, because I consumed all these interviews that you were doing yesterday at you had like a media luncheon to announce the deal and to talk to the press. And I was wondering if any of the reporters who spoke to you would bring up some of your comments in the past about the app, and you referred to it as dead zone and stuff like that. I have to give you credit, Frank. You were the one who brought up the comments in all these interviews. You didn't shy away from it. You brought it up. You said in the past, I referred to it as this. But the things, the status of the company and my feelings on the company and the personnel have changed. Not a lot of people would do that, so I do have to give you kudos and props for that.
Well, that's very kind of you. But it's true, when I was saying that, obviously Eddie and I were big rivals, Queensberry and Matchroom were big rivals, and some of that was done tongue in cheek. Some of it, to be honest, was a feeling at the time. But as I said yesterday, the management in the last 18 months, maybe 20 months, and the people who got involved in the zone are very respected and well thought of in broadcasting. Well, certainly as far as I'm concerned, some people I've worked with in the past, and for me it's a pleasure. I sat down with the founder and owner of the company, Salem Blatnovic, who is a guy of tremendous vision, and when you look at what he's done in various guises and various businesses you've been involved with, he's a world-class businessman. Warner Music and various other things that he's been involved with. And his vision is just fabulous. But for me, the big thing was the management they brought on board and what has been happening. And I'm delighted. This is a big move forward. My son George, who's the CEO of Queensbury, I mean, he was instrumental in pulling this all together. You know, at the end of the day, as a team, him and the rest of the directors, it's something that we feel is the right place for Queensbury to be now. There'll be some additional dates for us, and it's going to be something special. And the fact that there's other promoters there, you know, as you mentioned earlier with Eddie, obviously with Oscar, there's some big fights to be made out there between all of these various companies. And I feel that it's going to be great for boxing, and more importantly, great for the viewers and the fans.
If you didn't have this great working relationship with Matchroom now, in large part due to what has transpired with Riyadh season, do you think you would have done this?
I've got to be honest, that I'm not sure of. And the fact is, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, he bashed our heads together. And regarding Riyadh season, which has been a revelation for boxing in the last 12 months, just been something extra special for me. It's been a privilege to be involved with. It's working, and it's worked. And we've had some fabulous shows, some brilliant. When I say fabulous shows, some really great main events, but also some brilliant fights on undercards, real value for money cards. And as you know, not just us, but Riyadh season has also done a deal with the Sun for a lot of their events. So this is the place to be. This is what it's all about. And we've done a multi-year deal. And from Queensbury's perspective, our job is now to make this into an even bigger success story. And we will work very hard to do that. And I just feel that this is our home. I'm 72 now. Obviously, George Francis, my other son, one of my other sons who manages Moses Atuma, Sam Noakes, and many other great players. This is an opportunity for us to really, really move the sport forward. The way people consume and watch, not just boxing, but other sports and events on TV or whatever, streaming, whatever you want to look at, apps, whatever, has changed, certainly over the last few years. And I've always felt that we're quite innovative and we move with the times, going back to the days when, when I got involved in boxing, there were two channels, terrestrial channels in the UK. One was BBC television, state-run TV, and the other was, and IT didn't have any domestic boxing. And in those days, there was no live boxing. It was on a 24-hour delay. They used to have the fights midweek on a Tuesday night, show them on a Saturday. On a Wednesday the following day. And we fought to get live boxing on. Everybody said, that's mad. It killed a gate and so forth. But we felt that was the way forward. And over the years, it's evolved to move forward with pay-per-view, with the different channels that we've been involved with. And this, for me now, is a massive, massive opportunity, a big challenge. We relish the challenge. We're looking forward to building this into being an even bigger station than it started off with. We have a great roster of fighters, and it's going to be, I generally do believe it's going to be something special.
A couple of questions about the finer points of the deal. Could you tell us how many dates you are getting per year?
I can't actually give you the number at the moment. It's more than we're doing at the moment. So we're going to do quite a few dates. We're going to broaden our horizons as to where the shows take place. And obviously, in the next month or so, we'll elaborate on that. But it's a great deal. There will be more shows as far as we're concerned. And there'll be shows featuring some of the best, I believe, some of the real best fighters in the world, in Europe, certainly in Britain, and guys that we're signing up from various places around the world. This is a great opportunity, and this is a global broadcaster. It's a one-stop shop. It's a one-stop shop, and it makes it easier in some ways for the fans because now they haven't got to buy 3 or 4 subscriptions. All the major promoters, nearly all of them, are going to be on the zone. So it makes it very sensible for them to be buying into this if you're a major boxing fan.
Frank, when you say broaden your horizons as far as shows, will we see Queensberry shows in the United States now?
I would love to see that happen, and we will work to make that happen.
Okay, why don't you do shows as of now in the United States?
Well, I've done them in the past. Me in the past, we launched Showbox on Showtime in the States. That was us who did that. I promoted lots and lots of shows. I remember doing Johnny Tapia down in his home state, the late great Johnny Tapia. I can remember, doing Marco Barrera, who was with us and won his world titles. Lots and lots of guys over the years fought on shows that we did in the States, both on Showtime and HBO. And we made a conscious decision 6-7 years ago to focus on the UK markets, focus on certain weight divisions, and we've been very successful in what we've done. And obviously, being involved with the Riyadh season, that helped enhance it. So now, we want to do what we're good at, which is promoting great events. We want to do that around the world.
Okay, and you also said multi-year in the press release. Could you tell us how many years it's for?
Part of the deal is that we don't announce that, but I can assure you it's a long-term deal.
Okay.
And it's a deal we're very, very, very happy with.
Yesterday, you were asked a bunch about the February 22nd card in Riyadh, and you said unless things change in the next 48 hours, Daniel Dubois is not going to fight Anthony Joshua, and that there was pretty much it seemed like two front runners. It's been 24 hours since. Has there been any change?
No, we haven't yet. We're negotiating still, and I don't want to jeopardize those negotiations. It's very important we speak to obviously under the auspices of His Excellency, that we all work together. We're all on the same page, and I don't breach or break any confidence as to what we're doing. When we make the announcement, it'll be done collectively. It's a real season event. Our fighters involved in it, and Daniel, who's done brilliantly in the last 13 months, he's probably fought more quality opponents than I think just him and Nick Ball. Nick Ball in his last three fights in 7 months, 2 world champions, and a really great opponent. That's the quality he's fought. And as regarding Daniel, you look who he's fought. He's fought Usyk, and give Usyk probably he did give him a tough fight. I know there was controversy about the low blow, which I generally felt was legitimate blow, but he gave him a tough fight. Baby Miller, top 10 ranked fighter, in with who was undefeated. Usyk was undefeated, going in with another undefeated fighter in Hergovic, who was the mandatory for the IBF title, and at that stage, somebody who everybody was avoiding. He fought him for the interim title, and then went and fought Joshua as a 2-time world title. And each of those fights, he was going in as, according to the bookmakers, as the underdog. But he done brilliantly, showed what he's all about, come of age, and these guys are up there being fighters of the year for what they've done in that short space of time. So, exciting times, very exciting times for these guys. And they'll be, and certainly as far as Daniel's concerned, in February, he's going to be in a huge fight, no doubt about that.
Usyk Fury, December 21st. Why not just keep Daniel to fight the winner of that fight and reunify the belts? Why the need to fight him on the 22nd of February?
Because if he doesn't, you think about these guys, they're fighting December, by the time they have a break come out, there won't be and by then, Daniel will be sitting on his backside. He wants to remain busy. He's in training at the moment. He's a young man. He's 27 years of age. He's young for a heavyweight and certainly not got a lot of miles on the clock. He wants to be busy. So, he'll be out in a big fight. There's some really good fights for him there. Some great opponents for him to fight. Excuse me. Some really, really good fights to be made. And we want to make sure that he can go out there and solidify his position as being not just the IBF champion, but being the guy that should take place in unification fights next year.
You didn't ask my opinion, Frank, but I'd like to offer you my opinion if I can. I think Daniel's win should have made him, the lock to fight the winner of Fury Usyk. If that's not going to happen, and God bless him, let him get paid. I'm so happy for him. He's a tremendous young man. He deserves all that comes with that big win. I only think there's one option, one valid option that gets me excited, that gets my blood boiling, and that's the man who was not included on the December 21st card. That's Big Joe Parker. It has to be Joe Parker. I mean, none of this Wardley stuff, none of this other stuff. It has to be Joe Parker versus Daniel Dubois. Not even Zhilei Zhang. God bless him. We've had him on the show. I love Zhilei Zhang, but it's got to be Parker versus Dubois. That has to be the fight, right?
That doesn't stop Daniel if he comes through in participating in the unification fight still in the summer. I mean, whatever happens, I believe Tyson will win that fight. So whether he fights Tyson or if Tyson does what I believe he'll do in beating Usyk, what a great rematch Usyk against Daniel would be. All that controversy. There's some fabulous fights in heavyweight division, Ariel. Every one of them has been exciting. The division's on fire. There's some great fighters there. With Big Bang. I mean, he comes to the fight. He's never been in a boring fight, has he? These guys are all up and ready and really raring to go. All of them want to fight. There's no picking opponents. There's no easy fight. Excuse me, mostly in 50-50 fights, which is brilliant for boxing and brilliant for the heavyweight division.
The connection was spotty there for a moment, so can I don't mean to ask you again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
I didn't hear a response to Parker Dubois. Is that the front runner for the 22nd of February?
Look, that is one of the fights we're considering. There's a couple of options, and that's a great fight, by the way. But there's a lot of great fights there for Daniel. The heavyweight division at the moment is very, very sexy. There's some great fights there to be made. Can you keep the car still? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry. There's some great fights there for him. Some fabulous fights. All these fights, a lot of them are very competitive against guys who are all winning fighters. They're not losing fighters. So whatever we decide to do, Ariel, I promise you it's going to be a great fight. But we're looking at a couple of fights there, and I'm not being evasive, but before we can announce it, as I said earlier, through the Riyadh season, His Excellency, we all have to be on the same page. Everybody's got to agree to terms, and once we do that, we're going to announce a fight I think that everybody's going to love.
Okay, I'll just ask you two more questions and let you go because I understand you're in transit. It seems like the deal with Turkey and...
No, we've stopped the car.
Okay.
Stop the car.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't want to keep you up.
No problem.
If it was up to you, if you had your way, your druthers, would you prefer if Ben Shalom wasn't involved in the Riyadh season deals? Because it seems like there's a lot of tension up there between you, Eddie, and him.
Not at all. It doesn't bother me at all. He's had a few fighters out in Riyadh. He's not been so successful. It's not about Ben Shalom. It's about the fighters. It's about the fighters that he has or has under contracts. And if those fighters are going to be involved in big fights, that's all it's about. That's the business we're in, is delivering the big fights. Whether they're with Ben Shalom, Eddie, myself, Oscar, whoever it may be, it's about making the fights. What we're all about, as we've shown, certainly Riyadh has shown, is making the big fights.
It does seem sometimes a little bit unpleasant, though. So just in terms of like the overall vibe, does it bother you, his presence?
No, not at all. I just, I've got better things to do than worry about who's in photographs and where people are sitting. That's not the most important thing on my agenda. The most important thing on my agenda, and things talking about, casting aspersions about gloves and so forth in the Fabio Wardley fight was totally unnecessary. It weren't under investigation. That was all bullshit that was being said there. And he had no need to say that. Fabio Wardley was the better man on the night, as Fraser acknowledged, and took his loss like a man. And all that stuff that came out afterwards, it's not good for boxing. It's there's something wrong with the gloves and this and that. It was just a nonsense. There was no investigation. Those gloves were on the approved list of the Boxing Board of Control, and that is it. So stop with the nonsense. It's just crap. And it's like, why even go down that road? I mean, it was a comprehensive win. There's no debate or no arguing about who won that fight.
Would you like to see Eubank Ben on the 22nd of February card?
Well, whether it happens or not, we'll see. I mean, there's 2-weight difference between the two of them. It's a fight that's been highly, well, yourself, there's been a lot of controversy around it. It's a fight that didn't happen for obvious reasons. And will it happen? Who knows? I'm not a big fan of Chris Eubanks Jr. anyway. I'm just not a fan of him. The next generation at 35 years of age gives me an opportunity to become, I don't know, a bit of a Dorian Gray if I look in the mirror. He's 35, 36. There's some great fights out there for him to make, whether it's against Conor Benn, whether it's against Hamza Shiraz, who he's ducked, or even Denzel Bentley. They're all great, certainly for the UK, great fights to be made. But we'll see what happens. I mean, for me, he didn't look great, and he didn't look great in that fight he had on the last show. I thought he won the fight as he was expected to do, but he didn't look dynamic.
Next weekend, we're seeing Mike Tyson return to the ring. Will you watch?
Of course I will. It's like watching a car crash, isn't it? That's what we do. People do. That's what it is. I really have the greatest respect for Jake and his team. They're really good people. I've worked with them. They are, and they've been a joy to work with. 58-year-old guys fighting. I'm not a big fan of that. Of course, I'm not a big fan of that, and it shouldn't. And guys at that age should be fighting, but they have their own mind. They have the governing body, whoever it is in Texas. They've allowed it to happen as long as it's medically regulated. As long as everybody knows, and they certainly know what the risks are going into it. That's their choice. Me, it's not something I particularly would endorse. But we're in a democracy, and if people want to climb a mountain, if they want to dive to the deepest depths of the sea, they want to go up in a rocket into space, that's their choice. Sometimes people need protecting from themselves. We will see. One thing about the fight, I think for probably a round, you're going to get a vintage Mike Tyson coming out and doing what he does. After that, we'll see where he goes. I remember making the fight years ago against him and Danny Williams, and I said to Danny Williams at the time, let me tell you, for 2 rounds, you are gonna think it's World War III. After that, we'll see what happens, and you have the ability to beat him after that happened, and that's what we did. What is Mike going to do now? Who knows? I mean, but one thing's for sure, it's going to get record viewing because people will buy into it, rightly or wrongly. It's like a car crash, as I said at the start of this. People slow down on the motorway to see what's happening.
Okay, last one from me. I remember speaking to you in July of 2023. We were in London. You were announcing the Joe Joyce Zhile Zhang fight, and you told me that a game changer was coming. We then found out a few months later the game changer was Turki Al-Sheikh and Riyadh season and whatnot. I think you've been vindicated because I think at the time, Frank, people were like, here's Frank Warren, promoter, talking game changer. It's a whole bunch of nothing. The game has changed. Could you have ever imagined that it would change this much? A year and a half later, did you even think back then that it would be this much of a game changer, his influence in the world of boxing?
Hand on my heart, I didn't think Riyadh season would have this influence. I mean, let's see how it is. Riyadh is now the world capital of boxing. That's what it is. And I look at the events that they've done outside, the special events, Riyadh season events, the one in LA. You look at the fight card. It was a great fight card, a marvelous one. And you look at the one, the Wembley edition one in London. What a fight card that was, and broke all box office records. Who'd have thought that? But it happened, and what a fabulous night of boxing, and what an unbelievable main event. The coming of age of Daniel Dubois. What I'm pleased about is it showed that the faith we had in him was justified, and he came through, and that's what's happened. Because of Riyadh season, people have been given opportunities. It doesn't mean because you've been beaten that it's the end of the world. You can come again. You can get into the swing, get into the mix and build it. It's not the end of the world if you get beaten. And we're in for a game changer again. This DAZN deal, I promise you, will be another game changer, in my opinion.
All right. Looking forward to it. Congratulations, Frank. Thank you so much. Congrats to you and the team. Looking forward to it very much.
And thank you, Ariel. And I'm sorry we had to do this from the car.
No, it's okay.
I'm always saying, and God bless you, and thank you all again. And it's really a privilege and a pleasure to be on your show.
Looking forward to the next chat. Thank you so much, Frank. There he is, Frank Warren, the founder of Queensberry Promotions, announcing their new deal, multi-year deal. I tried to get the terms, I tried to get the dates, I tried to get the years, but they are moving from TNT Sports over to DAZN beginning April 1st, 2025. They've gone from BBC, as he said, to ITV, to Sky Sports, to then BT Sport, to TNT Sports. And it's fascinating. The relationship that the UK has with boxing, trust me when I say this, it's unlike anything we see here in America. It's football, then boxing. You listen to radio, you watch TV, you watch their version of SportsCenter on Sky Sports, you watch any of the content on just regular TV. It's all about boxing. They're talking boxing midday. And so to see the evolution from, as he was speaking, like you'd have a show on Tuesday, it can only air 24 hours later on BBC, to now how big it is, 97,000 people at Wembley. Our own Elliot Wursel wrote a great story on uncrowned.com about the UK stadium boom and just like the popularity of boxing, in particular, combat sports, MMA as well. I mean, you're getting people at 4 a.m. in Manchester to stay up for a UFC event. It's remarkable. It really is. It's very cool to see, and I'm curious to see how it all pans out beginning April 1st of 2025. That's just more shows, more dates, more big events, and also hopefully more promoters working with each other to put on the best cards possible. In about 30 minutes, we are going to be joined by Todd DuBoef, who is the president of Top Rank. My first time speaking to him. I'm looking forward to that chat very much. But for now, let's go back to Edmonton this weekend. What about the Moroccan Devil, Youssef Zalal, who is now 3-0 since returning to the UFC? A fantastic win against Jack Shore. He is on some kind of roll. He's an incredible personality. Our first time talking to him. Let us say hello to the aforementioned Youssef Zalal. There he is. Hello, Youssef. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You can't. You know how long I've been waiting for this. This is how long I've been waiting for this. I was like, I know I'm doing something good when this comes up.
Yes, you are, my man. You're on fire, and it's great to have you. Congratulations on all the success. And your story is fascinating because you were in the UFC, then you parted ways, then you won a whole bunch of fights in a row, and then you came back. This, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. Is this working out better than you thought, or did you know upon returning that you'd be a force to be reckoned with?
Oh, man, it was definitely working out better to be because I was supposed to be in the Ultimate Fighter, so I thought I was going to go a completely different direction, you know what I mean? And the whole Ultimate Fighter was more of like, hey, they're going to know more about your personality and like really it's a good thing for you. We couldn't find nobody in the regional scene to fight us. So that was kind of like the thing. So like I was like, all right, and then the Ultimate Fighter did not go through. They were like, hey, you're an alternate. And the Billy Q happened, and then the rest is history. So I knew I was gonna be on a tear, obviously, but I still got a lot of work to do, man. A lot of work to do.
Was that a blessing for you to not have to go to the house 6 weeks away from the world, go through that ringer, and then just go straight into the UFC against Billy Q?
Oh, man, 100%. Like, I was prepared for it. I was ready for it, 100%. Like, I said bye to my family. I said bye to my team. I said bye to everybody. But to not do that and really just go train for 2 weeks and then go fight and then really just live the moment, that's a blessing, 100%.
So if we would have talked back in August of 2022 when you parted ways with UFC after the Damone Blackshear fight, where were you at in your career? Did you think, all right, all good, this is a setback, I'll be back? You know, at that point, as discussed over the weekend, you fought Ilia Topuria. You had a couple losses after that one as well. You get the draw. So, like, what are you thinking? Because it's not often that, the UFC comes back to you, right? Sometimes they part ways with you and they say goodbye forever. So what were you thinking? How would this play out?
To be honest, I was thinking about done fighting. I really was. The fighting was not in my mind. It like kind of like really affected my personal life big time. You know what I mean? You're like, well, man, they had all these hopes about you, this all dreams about you. They're like, you're the next thing, you're this, you're that. And to really get kicked out of the UFC, and now you're not really making any money. Now you just looking at yourself and be like, okay, I got to go keep teaching and just kind of keep moving. And I had a really good team behind me. I feel like that's kind of like helped me a lot, and good mentors behind me as well. So that kind of kept me in a direction. The biggest thing, the hardest part was when we went and win 5 in a row, and then to get told in front of my face with the matchmaker that like, hey, you came in hot, you finishing everybody, you couldn't finish nobody in the UFC. I have to give the contender guys their opportunity before you and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a heartbroken. I'm like, am I even going to ever be in the UFC? Is that even going to be another option? You know what I mean? So that was kind of like the whole thing. But I had, like I said, the people, the managers, and anything just kept me like really focused on the main goal. They knew what I was capable of, and I believed it, and here we are.
Still, you're in your mid-20s at this point, and I screwed up. I said draw. It was a majority decision the last fight. But you win your first 3, and then the next 4 go like that. So what do you think you're going to do in your life? Like when you're thinking, I might be done, you're in your mid-20s, you're such a young guy. What do you even, for a brief moment, what are you even considering?
God, for that moment, I really didn't like consider a lot of things. Like I feel like I grew up in Morocco, so my culture was, no matter what, you make it work. That no matter what it is, you're gonna make it work. Is that living paid check to check or whatever the case is? That was my mentality, no matter what. So I was gonna go work my butt off and then get it done. You know what I mean? So that was the whole thing in my mind anyway. But was it the thing that I loved? Not really. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the hard decision was like, okay, like if we're gonna do the fighting, we have to change a lot of things, and I have to look into myself first. So that was where my thought was at, like just coaching, and I was driving Uber too. So that was my thing. I love driving, so I was kind of just driving Uber. So that was me for at least 2 months, to be honest, like just in a bad spot, just like a depressed spot and like dark spot, like really has to go teach, train, and then just drive Uber. That's it. That's all I was doing.
Damn. Was that humbling?
Oh, it's super humbling, man. That's why I don't take everything for granted now. You know what I mean? Especially when I go back home as well, man. It's like you get to see, like, man, you drive a nice car. People can't even afford a car down there, and then you get to live in a nice apartment and stuff like that. So I had a bunch of humble things come my way. To be honest, too, it was coming nonstop. So it really made me look at life completely different and appreciate things a lot more.
You talked about this on Saturday about like doing things for yourself as opposed to doing things for the media or doing things how you kind of think people how they want to hear you or listen to you or perceive you. How did that shift happen? Who opened your eyes to being, for lack of a better word, more selfish, just worrying about yourself as opposed to worrying about how other people perceive you?
There's a lot of things, like certain things, but to be honest, the main thing is watching my old self. Like I literally watched my old self, how I handled myself, how I was doing everything, how I was fighting and stuff like that. So I knew, like, I couldn't lie to myself. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of fighters would be lying to themselves. Like, you'd be like, you didn't give it your best. You didn't give it your best on that fight. And you act like, oh, just because you looked good, you gave it your best. That's not your best. You know what I mean? It's like, so I kind of really just went back for months, watched all my fights, watched my videos, interviews, and stuff like that, and how I was handling myself. I was trying to be like, oh, I'm trying to be professional. I can't say this. I can't say that. Like I was hiding my personality for who I am and worrying about what everybody else thinks about me. Like, oh, you're fighting for your country. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're doing that. So I was kind of like living in that hole where everybody wants to live in. You know what I mean? I was like, in the end of the day, I'm doing this for me. That's what's most important. I want to change my life and my family's life. So I have to do this for me first.
So you had 5 wins outside of the UFC, 1 kickboxing, 1 boxing. How did those come about?
Oh, that's crazy. So on I think I fought the 2 fights. They got me the 2 fights. I won those. And then the third, we were looking for a third fight. Nobody wanted to fight. Nobody wanted to fight. And nobody wanted to pay as well. So I was like, I called my manager. I was like, I don't care. I will do this for 1,000. Just give me a fight. I just want to fight and get my talent going. And the Sparta was in Colorado. And they were like, hey, we have this tournament. We have best 8 guys. We're going to do boxing, 3 3-minute rounds, and then kickboxing, 3 3-minute rounds, and then the finale is MMA. And the scary part is if you lost the boxing, you make $0.
Oh, man.
And then if you won the boxing, you only make, I think it was like $400. And then if you won the kickboxing, which is the second round, you only get away with like 1,300. And then with the MMA, obviously you win the 10 grand. That was the 10 grand. So I was like, all this added pressure of I could not lose. I was like, there's nowhere in hell I'm going to lose this. And then they had the bracket, the old school. It was like number 1 versus number 8. And then they kind of like played it that way. So they had me number 1.
Oh, wow.
And then number 8 was a boxer that's never done kickboxing or MMA. So I was even freaking out even more. They were like, yeah, he's an amateur Golden Glove champ. He trains at a straight boxing gym. I was like, what? I get that guy first? And everybody else got kickboxers and MMA fighters. I was like, come on, man. Are you serious? And then, yeah, that's when I went in and I did boxing on that one. And I actually outschooled him. So that was awesome. And then kickboxing and then MMA.
That's crazy. All in the same night. That's unbelievable.
So the crazy part is, I was the first fight of the night because it was boxing. And then we had 4 fights later. Then I fought kickboxing. And then it was like 15 fights later. Then it was me.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So your adrenaline dump, it was crazy. It was insane.
So how were you feeling going into the last fight with that big gap?
Oh, I was kind of like chill a little bit. And then we kind of knew we were fighting a kickboxer. And he was like 70 kickboxing fights or something like that. So we were just chilling a little bit. And then when it comes to time, because my coach went through it before with Dustin Jacoby. He fought that and then went to the Contenders and then went to the UFC. So we kind of had a feeling about it. And then the whole coaching staff got me really ready for all 3 fights. So we were he told me I was hyped. I was, you just won 2 in a row. So you were all excited and want to say hi to your family and stuff like that. He's like, no. Just relax, sit down. He got me down and we're kind of calm. It was kind of just kept it as a team, really just talking and stuff like that, and then kept it going.
When did you start to feel okay, things are going well for me. I'm making noise outside the UFC. My time is coming. When did you start to feel like that confidence was fully back?
My first fight outside the UFC.
Just the first one?
Yeah. It was to see mentally where I was at on really being in the moment of the cage and not really worrying about everything. I feel like all my fight weeks, I had such bad news every week. There's something happened. Literally, I get into so much stress on fight week, but now you learn how to be okay, I'm expecting it. I know what to expect, but I have to be professional. This is my job. This is what I love to do. This is what I want to go have fun with. But the first fight, because it took me a long time. I think it was a few months before I even got back to the MMA. So it was definitely the first fight just to get that clarity in my head. And I think that's the biggest thing that really happened to me is the clarity in my head and all these thoughts that go in my head and stuff like that.
Okay, so the return has been spectacular. 3 fights, 3 finishes, 3 submissions, first round or second round, nothing past that, against solid competition. Jack Shore, no slouch. Billy Q, no slouch. And that fight, you take that fight from the Ultimate Fighter and then you just jump in. Early on, I feel like now you're just flowing, but early on, were you putting pressure on yourself this is a rare second chance? Don't F this up. This is your last chance to really secure your spot. What are you telling yourself as you embark on this latest chapter?
Oh, 100%. Like you said, you get the second chance of your life. And a lot of people don't get this. You know what I mean? I feel like there's not that many people in this world that gets this. And we see a lot of stories. The biggest 2 stories that coach always keep bringing up to me was Brandon Moreno and Max Holloway. When Max Holloway was on I think it was 3 losing streak or 4 losing streak. And then he went on a 10 streak to the title. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the stories that we see. I'm okay, it's definitely possible. There's a lot of people that done it. Why cannot be you? You know what I mean? And also seeing my teammates changing their lives. You know what I mean? It's almost like that energy is infectious. You you want to just get it. When it's my turn, I want it to be my turn. And that's kind of the whole thing about it. And like you said, you put it in words you don't get that many second chances in this life. And you mess it up one time, cool. Second time, you better get your act together and really get it going. So I'm very blessed about that and super grateful for that.
Can you even put this into words? 8 months later, you're now 3-0, 3 subs, incredible fights, incredible performances, highlight reel stuff. Can you make sense of all of this?
No, I mean, I know I was gonna do what I was gonna do. I didn't know it was gonna be this way, but I knew I was gonna do what I'm gonna do. I am a finisher, and I do believe that. I feel like I bring a lot of well-round game instead of just one thing. And the only reason why I took this last fight, it's because I was supposed to be in Morocco to go see my mom. I haven't seen her in 2 years, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go on 2 wins. I'm very happy, blah blah. But I was like, nah, man, let's keep this momentum going and really jump in on the opportunity. And as soon as I heard Jack Shore, I was like, come on, man, that's a great name to really go finish and stuff like that. And especially in the grappling aspect of it. So that was the biggest thing for me. And I told my coaches all week, I wanted to finish him on the ground because all his interviews were saying, I'm a better grappler than Youssef. I can put my grappling against anybody and stuff like that. So that was like my motivator. And now these days for me, I don't know what it is. I look for certain things, like what people tell about me and say about me, and I can't wait to tell them in their face as well.
Well, you're going out and seeking the interviews and seeing what they say about you to shove it back in their face.
Hey, this is the funny part. You know Cody Brundage?
Yes.
He cornered me for the first time. And I was sit there and we didn't have no interviews at all. I had nothing, no media on fight week at all. So all I had was literally check in, and then I sat down with UFC.com. That's it. It was like 3 minutes, and that's it. That's my whole week. I was done. And then I went in, and I was talking to him. She was like, yeah, he was saying it's gonna be Jack Shore was saying it's gonna be a chess match. I'm very excited about this, and I want to go back to my old days of grappling. So I was like, okay. So I went back to the hotel room and I watched the whole thing. It was like a 3-minute interview. And he's like, yeah, I want to grappling. I put my grappling against anybody and this and this and that. And I was like, okay, cool. And that was kind of like my, okay, I got it. Okay, no problem. And then Billy Q was the best one. I had David Unama with me, which he fights next week in Madison Square Garden. I watched the whole 8 minutes of Billy Q media scrum in the Apex of saying, I didn't fight nobody. Nobody had a winning record. He apparently said I beat Ilya. I never said I beat Ilya and all this stuff. So I was looking at all these things. And then I was like, okay, no problem. And then the coaches was like, why are you watching this? Like, turn it off. I was like, nah, I want to watch everything this guy says about me. Every single thing.
Incredible. I like that. You're trying to you're using that as motivation, but you know there's a little pettiness involved in that, right? I mean, you.
No, I'm so petty.
Okay.
So bad. I am so petty. I think you're petty too, though.
I'm petty. I'm petty too.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. I understand it.
It's something about being petty that gives you that dopamine that's really good. I'm like,
I get it.
So you keep that same energy, huh? Okay, no problem. No problem. I'm gonna show you how good I am. Don't worry.
I love it. I love it. By the way, you mentioned moving from Morocco to the United States. How old were you when you moved?
13. I moved in 2009. I came into Colorado 2009.
And your mom still lives there?
Yeah, so she lives in Morocco. So when I moved to the US, I haven't seen my mom for so I came to the US super young. I did school and everything, and we came visiting my dad and my oldest brother. And it was me, my brother that passed away, and my sister and my mom that came visited them. And my mom said, hey, I think you guys are going to have a better future here. You should stay here. And we're like, okay, it was just me and my brother. So she went back with my sister. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, I was a kid. I didn't know what's going on. And 10 years later, didn't see my mom.
Wow.
And 10 years later, yeah, then flew back, seen my mom for the first time in 10 years. And now it's been stuck so much just about fighting that I haven't seen my mom in 2 years because I was trying to get back to the UFC and really get everything going. So that was the whole goal. So the sacrifice is definitely there. So I gotta make it worth it for my mom and really, really have a good time with my mom.
I'm sorry to hear about your brother. I didn't know that. What happened to him? Do you mind if I ask?
No, of course. So a short story is he hung out with bad friends and was drinking, and obviously he was a little hard head. He was like, no, I'm driving, and they let him drive. And so we used to live in my dad's house. It was like right this, and you have to make a U-turn to get to my dad's house. And he just didn't make the U-turn all hard and flipped the car, and he had no seatbelt and just out of the windshield and hit his head and passed away.
Fuck, I'm sorry. How old was he?
when was it? 2016. It was 2016. So he was, I think, 23, 24.
And you were 20?
Yeah, I was young. Yeah.
And how did you get past that? How did you process it?
A lot of things, man. I was trying to commit suicide. I was a super young kid. We were just literally, we graduated high school. We had no papers. So we literally just down in the basement of my dad's house, and we go work under the table job, just make some money and then come back. And that was our life. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like not a whole lot of potential, to be honest. So I've been blessed enough that my brothers wanted a better life for me than anything. They always was like, hey, go train, go do this, go do that. Like they always wanted to do things for me. And every other night they'll go to bars or something like that and hang out, do their thing. And then that was that. And I got woken up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because I left the door open. He called me and said, leave the door open. And then I left the door open and his friend came downstairs running, waking me up out of my bed and said, Youssef, up, your brother. And I thought like there was a fight or something. So I went upstairs and he was laying in the street like 50 yards away from the house.
Oh, man.
I was the first one to hold him in my hand.
You threw out there right before, like, I was trying to commit suicide. This is before his passing?
No, it was after his passing. Same day.
Same day you tried to?
Yeah, same day.
What did you do?
I had a bunch of pills. I grabbed a bunch of pills. I was going to chug them, and then I had them in my hand, but I had a bunch of friends come downstairs, my brother's friends and everything, and then they, like, literally just took the things out of my hand and just kind of, like, kept me in a good direction. And my team, my old team, I used to train at American Top Team. They really kind of support me a lot and as well in that part.
Did you ever go down that path again, or was it just that one time?
No, man, that's like, I realized there's so many things. This is why I try to bring joy to people, man, and like really some happiness and stuff like that. It's like, there's so many people that love you in this world. You'll be amazed how many people love you in this world and how much they appreciate you and how much like you mean to them. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like my thing. And I was like, I'm not when it's time for me to go, it's time for me to go, but it's not my time to go. And that's kind of like my whole motto after that. I was like, really do everything with purpose. And that's why I felt like I went really hard on myself, especially on that first UFC run. I feel like I let my brother down and I let everybody down because I didn't take it as serious as I should have.
When you say you didn't take it as serious as I should have, on the one hand, I thought maybe, you were putting too much pressure on yourself. You're caring about what people think. When you say that, I think you're not training enough. Like, were you believing your hype? Were you thinking that you're the man, you don't have to train? What do you mean when you say I wasn't taking it as serious as I should have?
Believe in the hype. I was always training. I'm always a guy that's always trained no matter what. I always train nonstop. When I have a fight, don't have a fight, does not matter. Nothing changes with me between a fight and not a fight. It really doesn't change for me. But the thing is, it's like just believe in the hype and really not like purposely do everything that you're supposed to do for that. That's like mentally, not even physically. I feel like MMA is so easy to teach somebody physically things, especially if you're talented. You know what I mean? It's not that hard to really get you in shape, to get you a game plan, to get you all this stuff. But the hardest part for me was like just mentally, I was not there. I was just like, I'm just going through it. I'm just doing this, just doing that. Oh, they're talking about me. Oh, this, and that. Like there was really not a purpose in life in that part of it. You know what I mean? So, and it showed, and it really did show. And I let some fights slide by. Like some of the fights I should not let slide by. Like with the Ilya Taporia, I should have picked it up in the second round. And because the third round I won, I should have picked it up in the second round. Sean Woodchin, I should have picked it up. Even though they said you won that fight, I should have picked it up. The last fight, the draw, I was like, I should have picked it up in the second round as well. So there's a lot of things that I know I did. And I came to reality with it, and I've been a man enough to really speak it to myself and really be honest with myself, because I don't need to, I don't want nobody to be like, oh yeah, you did this, you did that. I'm like, no, I know what I did, and I will fix what I did.
You fought Ilya back in October of 2020. Could you have ever imagined that he would have turned out to be this good this accomplished? Did you think that after fighting him 4 years ago?
To be honest, no. I 100% didn't. But after, I knew he was very talented. I knew he was very, very talented. And I know he had power in his hands. Because I got hit one time and I was like, okay, like, he definitely got some power in his hand. And that's why I turned it into a grappling matchup, to be honest. So, and that was kind of like the whole thing. But obviously, I feel like my IQ, I use a lot more now than I ever did. But to see what he's doing, I'd never expected that. But after seeing a few fights right after me, I was like, yeah, I think he's going to be a champ.
And so when you see him now, how far away do you think you are from him?
I don't know. All I know, I have to step my game up. That's all I know, because what he's doing is amazing and incredible, and it's inspiring. You know what I mean? I give her credit due. You know what I mean? I'm not here to be good. I want to be the best and elite. So for me, I got to be honest with myself, and I got to do a lot of things. I got to step my game up a lot. Like, there's a lot of things I got to do to even reach that level. And all I know, what I learned from my past, is my patience. My time will come. That's all I know. My time will come, and especially in this MMA, and you know this about MMA, it's all about opportunities. It's all about the right opportunity and the right time. They can call you at any time. You find the number 5 or number 6 and stuff like that. I jumped in for Mozov. I put myself in there, taking the hardest fight in that division for the Utah card. And then they said, oh, no, we're just going to move it. I jumped in. I was the guys that jumped in to say yes. I was like, I called my manager right away. I said, I'll take it.
You're talking about the Aljo Evloev fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
I literally called my manager, jumped in, no training, out of the couch, ready to take it. I was like, let's do it. I want to take that fight because I know how this sport is. You go shine an opportunity like that, you will change your life.
Amen. 100%. So if it is just a situation where, all right, you get a call and a normal training camp, I know you've talked about the names like Edson Barbosa and Dan Ige. Who do you think makes sense for you next?
To be honest, I've been calling Barbosa. I know Barbosa was looking for an opponent the whole time, and I feel like Barbosa I think he's number 15 still or something like that. I was like, that would be amazing. But again, at the end of the day, it's like, I don't care. Whoever they give me. I know Josh Emmett's been off for a minute, and like I'd be ready to welcome him because I know he fought Ilya. So I go out there and finish Josh Emmett. That just brings my name way up more because he'd be like, oh, the champ couldn't finish him, and I just finished him. You know what I mean? So that just like writes the story itself. So, but I'm ready for whoever they give me, man. I said this before. I was like, if they give me somebody not ranked and they want me to keep showing, I will keep doing what I got to do because my time will come.
Is the goal to bring your mom over to the United States now, or is she staying in Morocco?
So her goal is to come to United States just to see her son's graveyard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, she hasn't seen it for 15, 14 years right now.
Can you make that happen? Are you trying to make that happen?
So we're making that. We're trying to make it happen right now. It's all through the immigration right now. We've just been waiting for. I think she got approved for something, so we're just waiting for the whole legal part of it. So we're just waiting on that part.
I liked in the post-fight interview, and I hope that happens for you and for her and for your whole family. I like how you said, shout out to the King of Morocco. I was like, wow, are you guys boys? Are you boys with the King of Morocco? Like, it was just like one of your homies.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I never met the king. I've never seen the king. Obviously, I grew up my life half in Morocco and half here. So it's kind of like I was kind of like watching videos and saying like, oh, he had some health problems and stuff like that. And I was like, I wanted to support because man, I want to represent Morocco to the top. And I feel like Moroccan MMA is not really getting talked about at all. You know what I mean? You know, kickboxers, you know, runners, you know, all this stuff, but you don't hear about MMA at all. You know what I mean? So I wanna be the guy that brings the MMA to a different level when it comes to Morocco. Like, hey, the confidence of kids training and coming up, like you really can change your life to fight, not just UFC and MMA in general, but especially at a UFC level. Like, come on, man, like that's like, oh, that's inspiring to me. Like that gives me chills right now just thinking about it to be the guy that go and do it and like a really high IQ. And especially when it comes to jiu-jitsu. That's like my biggest thing as well.
I loved it. Was like, shout out to the King of Morocco, shout out to my barber, shout out to my family. It was a whole mix of people. It was great. Keeping me looking good, my barber, shout out to him. I was like, yes, all right, I like this guy. I like your energy.
I know. They were saying, they're like saying, I'm the first guy to ever give a shout out to his barber.
It was great.
on an interview.
And
So
then
I
you're
was
in,
like,
and then
yeah,
and
man,
then you're
I got you.
you're in Edmonton. You're like, I didn't know hockey was so big. You guys love hockey. I'm gonna buy a Connor McDavid jersey. How did you know hockey was so big in Canada? Aren't you in Colorado right now? It's pretty big there
Yeah, I'm in
too.
Colorado, so apparently hockey's big here too. But I was like,
what?
that's what I said. I was like, I went in. I was like, so Cody knows a lot about sports. So Cody Bunyan knows a lot about sport. Actually, I even watched my first time ever watching the 2004 Boston Red
Oh
Sox.
yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah, so I watched it on Netflix. So like literally, all we're doing is just chilling and just watching. I watched the Yankees versus the Dodgers for the first time in my life, watching baseball on TV. That was my first time ever, and I was like, so I kind of got more into the sports, and I love watching like stuff like that. Like my favorite thing is Last Dance.
Yeah.
Like I really love Last Dance. Like just mentally, like you know what I mean, like winners, like we're male dominant, like testosterone, like we just want to win, you know what I mean? So they kind of like see how things like just go and like really act up. And I was like, man, that was awesome. And I'm kind of like talking. He was like, yeah, bro, they like love hockey in Canada. And then I did an interview, and they were like, yeah, bro, hockey, like we put our kids through hockey and everything. And I'll say, for real? And then I was like, okay, like where are we fighting at? And he's like, oh, that's the Oilers, like that's the famous stadium. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, who's a famous player? They're like, bro, they have the best player in NHL.
NHL. Yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, who is it? He was like, Mick Davis. Apparently they call him Mick Jesus or something. I don't know what they call him. But I was like, what? I was like, all right. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna do an idea. But I was gonna I was gonna do it the weigh-ins, but I was like, they're like, hey, you do it, you're gonna get fined. And I was like, I was gonna slide the jerseys that I bought from because the UFC didn't give me no jersey. I'm not a main event or anything, but that's
Your time will come.
Get there. We'll get there. Time will come. But I was like, oh, it's a $300 jersey. I was like, I don't buy no jerseys, man. I was like, what? So I was like, I grabbed the jersey, and I was gonna give it to my coach Cody. And I was like, okay, when we go in, they called my name, Scale, and I was gonna grab it and then show it out. But I was like, they said you're gonna get fined, like percentage, and I was like, I'm not gonna risk that. And then I was like, all right, cool. But as soon as I knew the arena, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do it. And I was like, I don't even know nothing about hockey. And I was like, let's go Oilers, and they lost it. They lost.
Well done. I love that. They call you the Moroccan Devil. I'll call you the Moroccan Delight. You are a delight, my friend. Your personality is great. Your energy is infectious, and very happy for your success. So congratulations on the 3 wins this year, and looking forward to a big year for you in 2025.
Thank you so much, my man. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
We'll talk to you soon. There he is, Youssef Zalal, the Moroccan Devil. What a run for him since March, since returning to the UFC. An incredible run. 3 wins, 3 submissions. Very rare to see someone lose, that many in a row, get released, have to work his way back up, and now have this kind of success. Again, against top talent. Billy Q and Jack Shore are certainly no slouches. So a very fun story to follow come 2025. All right, very excited to talk to our next guest. I mentioned at the top of the show, back in 2009, I had a somewhat infamous chat with Bob Arum at Yankee Stadium prior to the Manny Pacquiao-Miguel Cotto fight, and he shared some thoughts on mixed martial arts, and that clip went viral, and it was sort of like one of the big moments of my career early on. Since then, obviously, we've had Bob on the show, and we're in a very, very good place, and I think he's obviously one of the greatest of all time when it comes to promotion, and an icon and a legend and a trailblazer, all those things and more. But the president of Top Rank Boxing is Todd DuBoef. I've never had the opportunity to speak to him on the program, and so that's why I'm very excited to do so right here and now. Let us welcome Mr. Todd DuBoef. There he is. Hello, Todd. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me, man. I remember that Yankee Stadium thing like it was yesterday. I can't believe it was 2009.
Crazy, right? That was a huge, I was just a kid, fresh-faced, and he goes on this tangent about the sport, because if you recall, you guys were going head-to-head, or the UFC was going head-to-head with you that night, and I don't think he liked it very much, and so he went on this thing that exploded. No one really knew who I was, and then he gives me that, and everyone's hitting me up. So, yeah, it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I think and I don't remember, was that when they launched their Fox deal?
No, it was before that. It was before they were still that was still the Spike TV days.
The Spike TV days. Okay. Yeah, but I remember and Bob was riffing and he was going on and you were sitting there just, it was I mean, there was one of those tornado bobs that you couldn't stop either. He was just going.
And that's why we love him. But it's interesting because congratulations on the Fight Life, the 5-part series on ESPN Plus. Fantastic, riveting stuff. Shades of Drive to Survive and the golf program that we've seen on Netflix as well. And
Full Swing, yeah.
Yes. And full disclosure, I'm very good friends with Aaron Cohen, a mentor of mine, who helped work on the show for Words and Pictures, which is headed up by the former ESPN executive Connor Schell. It's a great look at the sport of boxing, not like the typical all-access 24/7 stuff that we've seen over the past decade, the likes of Naoya Inoue and Tyson Fury. And there's the poster right over there. 5 great episodes, and I believe more are coming in 2025. And part of what I like so much about it is I love the fight business. I love talking to promoters. I love talking to the people behind the scenes, managers, etc. And you're very present throughout. And I have felt, correct me if I'm wrong, that throughout, your career, you have tried to not be as present as your typical promoter. And obviously Bob is doing his thing. And so it's good to have one message coming from one person. But it feels like you're now taking that step to be more out there as the face of Top Rank. Is that a conscious decision that you feel like right now that has to be done?
I think, I think very much so a conscious decision. I think a lot of it is I think I learned so much from Bob, and he was an incredible mentor, an incredible teacher. He was a visionary. I mean, we start talking about these crazy one-off things, and this guy was doing the Evel Knievel Snake River jump. So, I mean, how could you not love that kind of stuff? And he taught me so much, and I also felt like there was a lot to learn. And during that learning process, I felt like, hey, maybe is he going to give me the rope? Is he going to let me go do some strategical moves? Let me start to forge new relationships, right? To advocate on the behalf of the sport and how great it is. And he did. And that was the path that he allowed me to do. And I kind of said, give him his milk box, give him the press, let him go, chirp all he wants. And I think it worked really well. And I think recently, when we did the Fight Life, and I went to pitch it to your good friend, Aaron Cohen, he's like, I've been waiting for 20 years for this show. This is dead on. And him and Connor said to me, you have to take a front stage. You have to be part of the show. We want to see the sausage making. We want to see behind the scenes. And I think it was a conscious effort. I was ready. Bob loves going to the shows. He loves showing up everywhere. But I think it also was a good compliment to how we worked with each other on him being the voice and me kind of working with him and our team in strategy.
Are you comfortable in that spot? Are you comfortable being the guy up at the dais saying Saturday night you need to watch, getting into these verbal sparrings with other promoters and fight? Like, do you want that in your life?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I've always felt like I think that there's something authentic about it when it's real and you feel it and you're passionate. I think there's a lot of nonsense to it as well. And I think like we're seeing right now in a presidential debate, when people start name calling, it's kind of frivolous and useless and you don't go anywhere. So I think, at times it works well, and I think there's a place for it. So I think I'm comfortable with it. I think I'm not going to go out and say something I don't believe in. But that's part of sometimes the promoters. They like to just throw a lot of crap out there.
Can you explain, like sometimes I'm blown away. I see Bob in Japan and then I see him in Riyadh and then I see him in the UK. How is he doing this at 92? And is there ever a point, and I don't even know if this would be well received, where you tell him like, can you just chill? Like you don't need to be at all these events anymore. You're 92, just enjoy your life at this point.
Well, I think this is his fire. It's his candle. It's his wick. And this keeps him going. And he looks forward to these moments, to these events, to go and travel, and it's a destination place for him. And it keeps him exercising his brain that he's working, and he loves it. And, you never want to take somebody's, passion away and their soul away. And the sport of boxing is his soul and his passion. And as much as we warn him, like, hey, this is not going to be a great experience. There's not a first-class hotel. There's not much luxury here. I don't care. I'm going. Let's go. That's how he does it.
I love that. That's incredible. Can I ask, you're 20-something years old. I believe he gets married to your mother, right? He's your stepfather. You're working in real estate, and his biological children aren't that interested in the fight business, and he proposes to you to, come check out the fight game and Top Rank and see if you're interested in it. And you take the leap. You're 20. Why not? Let's go check this out. Initially, did you think, okay, I got it. This is my career path. This is what I'm going to do? Or was it like, man, I don't know, working with my stepdad, he's a bombastic guy, he's a colorful guy. I don't know if this is going to work out. This is probably going to be more detrimental than fun for me. What were your early impressions early on? And did I get that timeline correct?
Yeah, I think you got it pretty good. It was in 93. I was working in New York at the time, and I had a lot of experience being around media at the time. I went to school with Jerry Levin, who was the ex-CEO of Time Warner. His son, Jake Levin, and I were very close, and I spent a lot of time with Jerry Levin. So I kind of was enamored with media, and simultaneously, I talk about this quite a bit, is Las Vegas. Las Vegas, its identity was so lost early on as a kid when I was growing up. But its identity kind of was, Sin City, gambling town, all that kind of stuff. But really what happened were prize fights, and the Runnin' Rebels came to the forefront. So sport kind of like stuck together. I don't believe I really knew the real Bob until I started on the job and what he was. I read articles about him. You may have seen it. He was always very cordial with me, very sweet. And my mother and him were dating for quite some time, so I got the experience. But it was pretty funny that the first day on the job, I was back in Las Vegas sitting in front of the Nevada Athletic Commission for Bob having a disciplinary hearing for calling Elias Ghanem a schmuck. So that should have probably taught me something about what that trajectory would look like in the sport and where the job I was.
By the way, what did your mom think early on? Like, was she in favor of you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were both really tentative. I said, listen, I think, remember, I'm 26 years old, and it's like, I want to learn something. I'll get exposed to something. And, we had just signed Oscar in 92. A lot of the guys were young. James Toney and I would hang out and play basketball. George Foreman was more of Bob's peer. And I think he needed somebody young to be around and just to look at the landscape of the sport and everything. I mean, we had no computers in the office. When I wanted to go put computers in, his secretary was about to have me thrown out, lynched. She wanted to still just stay on a typewriter. You're not taking my typewriter. She's holding on for dear life. So I think there were a lot of things that we had to do. I think the best thing about it was, I learned, I paved my own way. We communicated, we fought, we pulled, we tugged, I always say, I was Harvey Keitel in The Wolf of Wall Street. He would offend somebody and I'd have to go clean it up every day. And I kind of dealt with that. But, I really like the place we're at. And if it wasn't for him giving me and giving the team that we've put together the rope and the ability to go grow, I think we really were able to grow something terrific for the sport of boxing, both domestically and globally.
Fascinating time right now in the sport. You talk about the landscape. It hasn't been this interesting, in my opinion, in quite some time. And obviously everything going on in Saudi Arabia definitely helps in that regard. Could I ask your opinion, the current landscape, the state of boxing, as ESPN calls it, their program that they do? How do you feel about the current state of the sport?
I think the current state of the sport is terrific. I think what we're dealing with, and I think technology has helped a lot with, is the world is getting flat. We're getting more access to the international guys, and we notice that there's all these events going on. And that was the inception of when we went from being behind a paywall at HBO to ESPN to wherever the next chapter may be. It's like we all are looking at something that is so global and so relevant. And one of the beauties about this sport is it has a foundation that goes back hundreds of years, 100 years plus. And you're looking at the Olympics, and the Olympics are the beginning of the sport. And I talked about it all the time. In all sports, people go to the Olympics as the pinnacle, but in boxing, it's the beginning. And when you have countries that are fostering great amateur programs and developing young fighters, it seems so evergreen. And I think there's an endless opportunity. And I think we're being able to get exposed to so much more. I'd like to see, personally, a little bit more of the heavyweight division coming back through America. I think we've lost a bit of that. And I think a lot of that is obviously the just meteoric rise of all the other sports where these guys are going into football, basketball, baseball, and the massive amount of money being thrown at it.
And so, you mentioned growing up in Vegas, fight capital of the world. Now, we had Frank Warren on an hour or so ago, and he said Riyadh is the fight capital of the world. And it's hard to argue considering the events that are going on there. How would you describe your relationship, Top Rank's relationship with Turki Al-Sheikh and the Riyadh season crew?
I mean, I think what he's doing is I think they're doing a very good job at, making Riyadh the Vegas of yesteryear, right? Taking that playbook, finding great events. If it was Formula One, WWE, using boxing, saying, hey, we offer all these great events, and being able to offer, fighters from all over the world to come there and fans from all over the world to come there. So I think that's what you're seeing. And I think that's healthy. I think that's a good thing for them to develop. And I think it's a good thing to have another hub like Las Vegas, like Los Angeles, like New York, like London, like Japan. It's good to have a nice home in the Middle East.
So you mentioned the state of the American heavyweight right now. And then I obviously bring up Riyadh. And Bob was critical of Jared Anderson's decision to take the fight in August. And I know that wasn't necessarily under the Top Rank umbrella. And that leads me to wonder, I saw the photo of Turki and Naoya Inoue. How does that work? You're building up guys. You have a plan for someone. And then here comes, a lot of money. And now maybe it's not the fight that your matchmakers would have put him in. And here's a guy that you've just invested a lot of time and effort into, and he takes a fight against someone who he's maybe not ready to fight. And all of a sudden those plans have blown up, and now you have to deal with the aftermath. And so how do you deal with that now with all this money being thrown at these guys?
I don't know. I mean, I would hope that it's complementary, right? I think this is a ambassador role that they have. I think in Inoue's situation, the discrepancy between what he would make at home and what he would make elsewhere is not that significant. And we obviously don't know. I'd love to take him to America, but I don't really necessarily think that, it's one or the other. You would hope that it's complementary, right? That being a part of Riyadh season at some point during it, but you're going to be fighting at home twice a year. And then maybe if they pull that lucky straw and you get a great fight and you can do a big event there where they're throwing a lot of money, I think it works very complementary.
And so with Jared, is there a plan now to get him back on track?
Listen, there's always a plan for us, but there's really, when you start asking about athletes and fighters, it's them to give us the plan to a certain extent. It's like, hey, look in the mirror. Where are you at your career? Right. And I kind of made this comparison with Jared. It's like, listen, people talk about nursing a fighter or whatever, or bringing them along too slowly. I wish we had more guys like Lomachenko and Inoue that could be fast-tracked right away and transition from amateurs to pros. But we don't have that. We don't have scholastic boxing. So I think you have to take your time. And our matchmakers would have probably said, the Bacoli fight was fine maybe in a year. He needed more rounds. He needed more experience. And I've discussed how it's like climbing Everest, right? You acclimatize at the different levels. And that's what he needed to do, was acclimatize. No difference when Mayweather fights, Tony Pep before he fights Gennaro Hernandez, who's a tall, lanky guy who's a great boxer. He needed that fight before he got to the one fight. So I think Jared has to look in the mirror, has to decide if he's ready, what he wants to do, and how aggressively he wants to do to come back, and who's in his corner.
I know Inoue is coming back in December, around Christmas time. Given the relationship with Turkey, and also hearing in the past you guys wanting to bring him to the United States, I know Dodger Stadium was thrown out. That would be incredible. Is there a greater chance outside of Japan, his next fight being in Saudi Arabia or the United States, which has the better shot?
I don't know. I think it's, as Wolf Blitzer would say on election day, too early to tell, right? It's a perfect one, right? This is Wolf Blitzer day, right? Too early to tell. I would hope I would hope we could get him to the States. I think that would be an important place for him. I think I think the Otani phenomenon, he could draft off of wonderfully here. I think people see that in him. I think, to me, I always say he's the best fighter I've seen since 1993 because of just stylistically his aggressive nature, fast twitch, power in both hands. I love watching him fight, and to watch him just take people out is so exciting. It's great for the sport.
In my opinion, Top Rank, and this is not a hot take, it is the American boxing promotion. There's no one that comes close to you guys, and you do a great job of developing American talent in particular. Keyshawn Davis at the top of that list, the Olympic silver medalist, coming home on Friday to Norfolk, Virginia. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he the one that told you guys, like, bring the show to Virginia, bring it to Norfolk, I will sell it out for you guys, and then he sold it out like in minutes, if not hours?
Yeah, he has this swagger that's amazing, and sometimes you talk about keeping the reins on the thoroughbred and pull him back or not. He said, I want Lemos. He's tough. He got robbed against a Richardson Hitchens in fight, which he lost a unanimous decision, which most people thought he won. He was formerly ranked number 1, and he had said to us, I want to go home. I want to go home. And we balance that a lot because we're big at homecomings, right? We're big at taking Floyd to Grand Rapids. We're big at Tapia and Romero, both in Albuquerque, especially smaller level towns. And we wanted to do it, but we wanted to do it when he would be the main event. And soon as we did this thing just took off like a rocket, and we love it. We absolutely love it. He's been terrific. He's been terrific out there promoting, and he's got a real tough fight. And I think he's knocking on the door for a title, very early in 2025.
And his brother, Keon, also on the card as well. So it's a family affair.
Yes, absolutely. We got the DB3 crew. You can't miss it. I told him, Keyshawn, but this is like the Jackson 5. It's like, do we get Michael Jackson ever, or is it the Jackson 5? Which one are we going?
Speaking of ESPN Plus, the Fight Life, the event this Friday, your deal is coming up with ESPN. I believe, does it come to an end in August of 2025?
It comes to in the midsummer of 2025. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on our active conversations, but we're out there talking to everybody. We're actually love our partnership with ESPN. It's so interesting because we've seen the deck change so much with the other sports, and I think it's been wonderful to watch. If it's the NBA going to 3 media partners, the NFL's at 5. I mean, it is amazing. And then also looking at the perspective between legacy media and technology companies, and even compounding that is, are you only looking at domestic rights, or are you looking at global rights? So I think all of these things are on the table, and we have wonderful team that works side by side with myself and Bob and our team in doing this, and we're really excited about what this next chapter looks like.
Are you at this point? Is the window open where you can start speaking to other people?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct, it is.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so when do you think we just saw the Queensberry DAZN deal get announced, and that starts in April? So what are we, like 5 months out? When do you think we might hear where you'll end up post this deal?
I don't know. I don't want a clock on us, right? I really want to make sure we make the right decisions, and we have a team, the agents at CAA that do our media rights are terrific at it, and that we come up with a really good strategy at looking like what's the best platform for it. Obviously, DAZN in the UK has done just locking up George and Frank Warren was great. They did a great job with Eddie Hearn or Leon. They have really robust international markets in Germany where they have primary soccer rights. So I think we have to look at everybody, and I think this is an exciting time. And so I'm not sure exactly on the timing, but we want to make sure we're not going to be rushed on the timing. We want to make sure we have the right partners in place, and we look forward to it.
I appreciate that you can't talk too much about it, but just one follow-up if I can. I do see some people kind of dismissing that ESPN's going to get out of the boxing business. Is that inaccurate? Are you actively speaking to them? Are they a player in this?
We're actually having conversations with ESPN as well. We're having conversations with everybody. And if ESPN, we've had a great relationship with them. What it looks like, after we go out into the marketplace and start talking to them and talking to the other players, we'll see if there's a place for them in our content stack. Obviously, we love the guys there have been longtime relationships with myself, even before it was they were even at ESPN. So I really value them.
Next weekend, we're going to see Netflix get into the boxing business. How do you feel about this event that they're putting on in Texas, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson?
I feel like this is right up Aram's alley with Evel Knievel.
Yeah, that's right.
I think this is like dead on Evel Knievel. I'm like, Bob, this is your wheelhouse. This is where you would have been. You had Hell's Angels running security for you. It's I don't know what to do with it. I caution myself. I don't look at it as boxing. I look at them just using the boxing ring as a format. But I would say I really like it that boxing's going to go to the forefront, and this is a big platform, Netflix, with 260 or 70 million households, and I think they, globally, I think I really just hope that Tyson is okay health wise, and even though they've modified the rules so much with size of gloves, distance of the rounds, distance of time of rounds. It is what it is, and I don't really take it that seriously, but I think it's a good outlier for them just to dip their toe in.
The co-main event is Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. They've got some work to do.
Love that fight.
It's a tremendous fight, and the first fight was amazing at Madison Square Garden. They've got some work to do as far as best female fight of the year, because just about a month ago here in New York, we had Sandy Ryan and Michaela Mayer, and that to me is at the front of the list as far as best women's boxing matches of the year. There was some wackiness that happened on the streets of New York prior. Has Top Rank figured out who threw the paint on Sandy Ryan, how this all happened? Because, I'm sure you've seen it all or thought you saw it all leading up to that night, and then all of a sudden we see a drive-by with a can of paint.
Well, all I can say to you is that, this is all part of Fight Life. We have Fight Life there.
Oh, is that going to be in season 2?
Yes.
Wow. That's a good plug.
It's amazing. I mean, to think that you would have thought that Aaron Cohen brought a paint can.
That's incredible. There it is.
They had this whole thing set up just to add to it, right? No, they didn't. It was amazing that this whole experience. And then there's some banter that we caught with the fight with Words and Pictures crew in the locker room with Sandy Ryan's corner, like saying, you can't go fight. You're not fighting. So I think this is going to be all chronicled terrifically in season 2 of Fight Life.
Okay. When does season 2 premiere? Could I ask that?
That's a good question. We're in the process of shooting 5 episodes, so we'll be in Norfolk this weekend. It'll probably be sometime in the next 8 months. We still are editing, but we're still shooting.
Okay.
This is the excitement of it.
So wait a second. If you say 8 months, which platform will that air on?
That's a good question.
Oh, okay. All right. I just tried to. That's interesting. Okay. That could be a big part of the piece. There was a rumor around a year or so ago that came out saying that TKO was going to buy Top Rank. I'm sure you saw this. TKO with UFC and WWE. It just seems obvious that boxing would be a part of the portfolio. Nick Khan, who you mentioned, longtime boxing guy, who's the president of WWE. Was there any truth to this? Was there any discussion about this at all?
No, I mean, we get overtures all the time, right? And I think what we saw in professional sports were like, hey, here's a sports category, global, robust, big library, CEO or founder of the company, 90 plus years, what would there be? There was really nothing substantive with us, with anyone. I think, at some point, probably 5 years ago, we had some discussions, maybe bringing in a strategic as some estate planning for Bob, but there has never really been anything substantive at all. Okay. I think the rumor mill is great to throw around. I think people love to say that, to talk about stuff. And, I think it, to a certain extent, I know those guys really well. Nick at the WWE and obviously the team at UFC, known for, most of my whole life, and their Vegas space. So we talk regularly or occasionally, and they're good guys.
Speaking of the UFC, I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about Dana White, who has long been a rival of Bob's. And it is a little bizarre at his age, still seeing the barbs being thrown his way. It is amazing to learn that Lawrence Epstein, who is their COO, was the best man at your wedding. And so you have a close personal relationship with him, with Hunter Campbell, whose father was the lawyer of Top Rank in the UFC for many years, and now he's so instrumental in their operations. And yet, for some reason, you would think two Vegas guys, you'd be friends, but even as recently as a couple months ago, there's still, shots being taken. I think he wanted to bring his boxing event to ESPN Plus, and he accused you guys of blocking that from happening with Callum Walsh. Why do you and Dana not seem to,
I didn't know that we didn't seem to, whatever the word was. I didn't know. I landed, I never got a call from Lawrence, Dana, or anybody at UFC regarding this matter. And I landed in Phoenix, Arizona, and was told that Dana went out there and called me a scumbag. And I was disappointed to hear that, but I kind of think it's a little bit predictable. I think like I've said before, I think Bob was a perfect nemesis for him, right? Bob would bite the hook. And I think when Dana was young and he had an up and coming sport, he associated the sport of boxing to Bob, who was cantankerous and bombastic. And he said, that's bad and I'm good. And that was just convenient for him. I've actually thought I've had a very cordial relationship with Dana. Obviously, I should think twice about that.
Well, when you hear something like that, do you have the kind of relationship where you reach out to clear the air to say that you had nothing to do with this?
Well, I mean, I have nothing to clear the air with, right? I'm not defending him. I think he's the one.
No, but he seems to think that you guys blocked him. So maybe because of your relationship,
if he would have picked up the phone and called him, it would have been
right.
One thing, right?
Would you have had an issue with it?
What?
Would you have had an issue with it if he picked up the phone and said, "I want to air this event on ESPN"?
I wouldn't have an issue with it. He picked up the phone and called it. It was like, listen, Dana is really good at being direct and poignant. I mean, and right at you. And if Dana would have picked up the phone and said, "Hey, this is what I'd like to do. What are your thoughts?" I was like, "Great, let me check with my team and let's go through it." And I not necessarily have a problem with it. I think just having dialogue and transparency is a good way to go through and grow the business and keep your relationship strong.
He continues to talk about getting into the boxing business. How do you think he would do if he went full in?
I'm not going to speculate on how he's going to do. I mean, I can just say that you hear he's going in, then he hears that everybody over there in boxing are losers. They're bustos. They don't know what they're doing. They have no resources. They're all leveraging up for each one night. They don't develop right. I mean, so he's great on the sidelines. I think they have an incredible machine in UFC. I think they've whiteboarded an incredible product. And just because boxers get into a ring and UFC guys get into a ring, the business dynamic is very different. And I look at boxing a lot more like the world of soccer, right? You have La Liga, Bundesliga, you have all these leagues all over the world, and you have boxing that is very similar with content holders and creators all over the world building out products. So I just think it's a different, they may punch each other in the face and they may get knockouts and decisions, but I think it is a different business model. And I think they know that too. But I think they're brilliant at what they do. I think they're terrific.
Would it be fair to say that the business model that they have for the UFC, in your opinion, wouldn't work if tried to be employed in the world of boxing?
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do in the sport of boxing that they're not obligated to do, right? Disclosure of revenue, all of those things. Our talent costs are a very, very big piece of our business model, and they take up the lion's share, significantly the lion's share of the business model. And I think we just saw a class action lawsuit that was settled by the UFC because their talent costs don't take up. It's a fraction of their revenue model. So I think the business models are different. And I think as a result of them having a different cost basis, they're able to throw an enormous amount of marketing dollars and dollars into growing things that I wish I had on myself. But we don't have that. We don't have the luxury, and we work with fighters and managers every day on creating great opportunities in big events. I think it's a different business model for them, and I think they would adjust, but they're very smart.
Could I ask about Shakur Stevenson? Why ultimately did it not work out with Shakur in Top Rank?
I'm not sure if it, I think things come to an end, right? And I mean, it's no different than if it was, things aren't forever, right? I wish you could say talent stays with you forever. You're like Francis Ngannou didn't stay with UFC forever, right? He decided to move on. Miguel Cotto was with me for a long time. It wasn't forever. I mean, Shakur Stevenson, is a very good fighter. We did a lot of very good events with him. And I think at a certain point, what his asks are and what his needs were and what we felt we wanted to, support, we were disconnected at that point, and we wish him well and go, right? If that's what you want to do and you want to go get different opportunities out there. But I think this is the story in sports and leagues or ownership. We see this thing go every day, and how guys are going to go into free agency, or they're going to get moved from one team to another. And it's not just isolated to boxing. It's all of sports. It's transactional. And that's hard to believe, and it's hard to get your head wrapped around, but it sets you up, and you remind yourself every day of what could happen. And it's not just boxing. It's all of sports.
I don't want to monopolize all your time. If I can just ask you about 3 of your fighters, and you tell me who they're going to fight next, okay?
No, that's not fair.
Why is that not fair?
I don't know. It's just not fair.
Well, maybe you have the answer.
I feel like I'm on a quiz show here.
Well, I'm trying to make this fast.
You're gonna speculate, and then
but then you just
riff a name.
The answer could just be I don't have a name.
Well, I may not have a name either.
No. You could say that. You could say to me you don't have the name. I'm just curious if there's any news on Lomachenko. That's all. You could tell me there is no news.
Oh, well, that's different. I thought you wanted me to say who he was going to fight.
Well, no.
What happens is the minute I say somebody's going to fight somebody, the price goes like up 3x.
Well, maybe there's some news you want to break here. I don't know.
Listen. When I'm ready to break news, we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm ready.
Is there any news to break on Lomachenko?
Let's go over some guys.
Lomachenko?
I'm ready for you now. Let's go. Lomachenko? I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. I think, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired, and I wouldn't be surprised if he fought a couple times more. I'd love to see him back in the ring, but obviously, the keys to that is in his hands.
Teofimo Lopez.
I think we'll see him fight in the first quarter of next year. A lot of good names out there. A lot of good guys out there that he could fight.
We have to.
I love the weight class. I love the weight class.
It has to be
from Tank to Pitbull,
yes,
Haney to Garcia. I think there's just so much good stuff. I mean, he and Keyshawn were talking smack.
Yeah, 140.
So I just think there's a lot of good stuff out there. Great weight class, very exciting weight class.
Better be of Bivol too. I mean, the IBF is trying to ruin these plans. How do you feel about that being the next one for both of them?
I think it's fine that it would be the next for both of them. But I think, I think one of the things we forget is everybody gets completely obsessed with us trying to get an undisputed. And we get this undisputed, and then all of a sudden they forget about the paradigm we have to deal with, right? Once you have undisputed, you have 4 titles and everybody has a mandatory. The next chapter of this thing is, how do we figure out a world that you can be undisputed and fight for the undisputed and then keep it, right? It's not isolated only to the IBF, because it happened with Tyson Fury and Usyk, right? All of a sudden they had to get rid of the title there. It's very hard to keep all of them. And we need to figure out a good operating system that all of these organizations could be unified in going out there. By the way, who did you have winning that fight?
Beterbiev. Sorry. I had Bivol winning. Sorry, Beterbiev won. I had.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Why did you think your guy won?
I thought Beterbiev was just more. I thought body language, aggressive down the stretch. I thought I thought he was. I have a predilection to watching the aggressive fighter, and I felt he was the aggressive fighter most of the night.
It was a fantastic fight. I'd love to see it again. I just, and I think the world would love to see it again. And sometimes I feel like the IBF these days, they're ruining our fun. They're making these mandatories.
Well, I mean, I think I wish I could say I wish I could say yes that's the truth, but the truth is that the IBF was under such strict guidelines from decades ago of issues that they had that they have to stay by their rules, and that's why I think that we need to come together to figure out how can the undisputed guys keep the titles, and how do we rotate in some way, and. I don't have the answer to that, but the good news is we're getting more undisputeds, and I love it.
The Fight Life is on ESPN Plus right now. Couldn't recommend it more. Tremendous watching, 5 episodes, very easy to digest. We look forward to season 2 this Friday, November 8th, Norfolk, Virginia, the biggest fight since the Pernell Whitaker days back in the day. The return of Keyshawn Davis and his brother coming home, the undefeated silver medalist from the Olympic Games. This was a lot of fun, Todd. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. By the way, I would just let me know, I've been a huge fan of your show, and I'm so glad that you're doing this new venture and really embracing combat sports, because this is so fantastic for all of the category, and we couldn't have a better person shepherding us through those.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That means a lot. Thank you. And shout out to Evan Korn over at Top Rank, one of my favorite people. And every time I was doing a move here, as we get more into boxing, he's my sounding board. I hope I'm not outing him here, but he's the guy that I trust.
He's a little snarky, so you better watch.
I like it. I mean,
he's got a little snarkiness to him.
I like it.
I found him because he had this witty tweet. That's how I found him.
Really?
He made this witty tweet about Peter Nelson, who used to be the programmer at HBO.
Yes.
And I laughed at it, and I sent it to Brad Jacobs, who works for it. I said, "This guy's pretty funny." And then I looked at it, and he was from Las Vegas, and he was in the PR business. I'm like, oh my God, let's go get this guy.
You made the right call. I love him. He's great. He's tremendous.
Right.
I didn't know the backstory, but that's amazing stuff.
That's a great one. I was a very funny, snarky tweet.
Congratulations on all your success. Good luck this Friday, and we'd love to have you on in the future again.
All right. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And it's great riffing with you.
Thank you. Thank you. There he is, the president of Top Rank, Mr. Todd DuBoef. Love those conversations. Hope you do as well. It's always fun to talk about the business and promotion side of things, and there's a lot more of those characters in the sport of boxing as opposed to the sport of mixed martial arts. As I said, Fight Life on ESPN Plus right now. They chronicle the lives of Tyson Fury, Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, Sinisa Estrada, who just kind of shockingly retired, and Naoya Inoue, season 2 under production right now with our friends over at Words and Pictures. And this Friday in Norfolk, Virginia, it's the homecoming of the lightweight star Keyshawn Davis, 11-0, 7 KOs, silver medalist, Olympic Games, against Gustavo Lemos, by far his toughest opponent, and his brother Kelvin and his younger brother Keon, both of them. So all 3 bros fighting on this card. Keon making his pro debut. They are known as DB3, the faction known as DB3. And as I said, tickets went on sale a few months ago, and 8,000 tickets were sold in one day, selling out the Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. So going to be very interesting to see now with Queensberry teaming up with DAZN. That's out of the way. PBC Amazon is an interesting one, and let's see where Top Rank goes in 2025. That rumor of TKO getting into the boxing business was a really interesting one, and I feel like it's inevitable, and this is not me having any type of insider information, but it feels when you call the company TKO and you've got pro wrestling, MMA, there's one missing. They should just call it Uncrowned. They should just call it a company. We should go. We should make ourselves.
Not so fast. That's taken.
No, well, we should team up with. What would our? Is it 3 letters or 4 letters?
Ticker?
Yeah, it's 3.
3 letters.
Unk.
UNC.
Unk could be good.
Unk.
I wonder if that's taken though. But Unk could be good.
That's Shannon Sharp. Don't people call him Unk?
They do call him Unk, or he calls himself Unk. But now people call him Unk. Yeah, I feel like UNC could work. We'll get on it.
Oh, yeah, UNC. When you break it down like that, UNC sounds like...
yeah, but they're not a public...
No, they're not.
The University of North
Just a
Carolina.
public institution?
Yeah. But then-
Speaking of the public, any updates on the election?
Frank, we're going to Frank for this.
None of them are closed yet. We still got.
We got breaking news, Frank.
Frank, see if
I always wanted to do this. They are calling it in Pennsylvania. No, I got another.
Wow.
I just always wanted to do it. How much fun must that be? Like, what's the process? Does someone
Have you seen some of those guys though? Like they get pretty riled up.
Yeah, I don't know if it seems fun. It seems stressful if I'm being honest.
There's that one dude, the NBC guy, Kornacki.
Is that what it is?
He's like up on the screen.
That's the one
and
I'm
he's
worried
like,
about. Yeah, like, bro, are you good?
If you were forced right now, this for Rick, Frank, anyone, to explain, because I even had to explain this to my wife. It's like, it's not just them counting all the votes, right? There's electoral college and there's this and that. Can you do it? Do you think you can explain
the
system?
electoral college? Yeah.
What is the electoral college?
So each state is given a number of representatives or votes based on population size and essentially population size, but more influence. And so once the total votes, the vote count for each, the popular vote for each state is tabulated, they then get assigned those points. It is not a one-to-one correlation between each individual popular vote in the state. It is a
How do they
secondary
determine?
measure.
How do they determine which, like, why does it seem to come down? Okay, what's a swing state?
That's a state.
A swing state. Well, go ahead, Frank.
No, I'm sorry. I actually
Frank.
accidentally pushed the button there.
It's a state that could be red or blue.
Yeah.
There's some states that are going to be blue. There's some states that are going to be red, almost guaranteed.
What are the top 5 swing states right now?
Shit, I don't know. I keep hearing Pennsylvania.
Georgia?
Both the candidates got to get Pennsylvania.
Iowa?
When they say
Arizona's
things
swing
like,
right now?
it all comes down to this state.
Yeah.
What's that state this year?
I keep hearing Pennsylvania.
Wow.
21 electoral college votes in old
Arizona's
PA.
looking dicey.
Jesus. Huh?
Even Texas has some opinion that it might swing.
California 55.
That's not swinging.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm listing off. Texas 34.
How do you feel about all of this, PT?
I think this is a good political talk, and we've done it. Now we can.
Florida
No,
27.
this is educational. Don't be so frank.
Everyone's on edge
No, you should
today. I don't know
based
why.
on the last based on the last 5 minutes, you should stay away from this. Last
Everyone,
as much
stop
as you
chatting
can.
shit.
What are you so? It's
I got in the elevator this morning, and the woman was just like, "It's a tough day today, huh?" I was just like, "No, I'm fine."
Did you hit her back with a? It's tough.
No, I just kind of laughed. I was just like, "We'll be all right."
I mean,
Are you not
setting
going to go
ballot
home and
boxes
watch
on
this?
fire.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to turn it on right when I get home.
I'm actually going to my
It's a spectacle.
landlord's to
It's like Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, or Jake Paul.
Exactly. Logan Paul. I love it. I can't wait to watch.
What's the system in Ireland?
Just the biggest fella from whatever street fights the biggest fella on that street, and then until the president. Basically, that's how we work it all out over here.
Whoever gets pissed and can stay inside the truck without breaking his hands.
No, seriously. I feel like it's.
That's for Taoiseach. That's a different thing.
Is it more like Canada, where in Canada you don't actually vote for you don't vote for the person, you vote for the party. So you vote. Is it like that there?
Yeah.
What is it like in America? You vote for the person or the party? The person, right?
You vote for the person, but the party is right next to it.
Of course, but like you put your.
So your ballot does not say the person's name; it only says the party name.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
No, it will say like, but it will say like the person, the constituents, whoever looks after that constituency for that party. It will say their name, but that won't be the same name as like the prime minister, if you get me.
I just wanted to give a quick update. I was actually giving out the amount of electoral college votes from 2004. That's my mistake.
Wow.
That's tough. My mistake. I was looking at an old map.
Wow. Okay.
Definitely do not come to
I'm
me
buzzing
for
for your
political
election, lads.
coverage.
I am absolutely
Yeah, we're gonna be.
buzzing.
There is a
He's
different
got a
air.
vested interest,
There's
no?
a different feel in the air today. That's for sure.
Best place to watch?
At home.
Yeah, sitting on my couch.
No. Like what's the outlet of choice?
Oh, I don't know.
NBC for me.
ABC.
Can I tell you something that
Tell us yours, Ariel.
No.
That was the whole point of this.
Which one do you? Which one?
Can
do
I tell you something that truly pisses me off about all of this? So when it comes to sports, right? We're told you have to keep it down the middle. You can't be biased. We can't sit here and openly root for fighters or sports teams. Like you turn on Sports Center, for example. I'm not talking about the first takes of the world and all that, but you turn on Sports Center, the anchors aren't cheering for the Red Sox or the Yankees or the Penguins or the Rangers or the Knicks, right? It's fairly down the middle. Or there isn't like, oh, SportsCenter is pro Yankees and FS1 is pro Red Sox. You know what I mean? It's fairly down the middle. And that's the bullshit sports world. That's the toy department, as Howard Cosell once called it. And yet, when it comes to like actual real life important things, why is everyone biased? Why is everyone with an agenda? How does that make any sense?
I have two practical answers.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Why can't there be a down the middle option where it's like, just
some
tell
would
it to me
argue
like
that
it
those
is?
exist, right?
Where do they exist?
Because almost
Many
no
times
one
I've heard
is down the
Al
middle.
Jazeera as a suggested net.
Al Jazeera down the middle?
That's what I have heard. That's what has
Bro,
been.
you must be trolling me.
Associated Press.
When it,
What?
NPR.
when it,
Fox is fair and unbalanced.
this
practical
dude just said Al
answer to your
Jazeera down the middle. Are you kidding me?
What the practical answer to your question though is
What is Al Jazeera?
Those
You're better off not knowing.
Those networks are more akin to a local broadcast, to the fan broadcast, than they are to what you're suggesting is like a national broadcaster, right? They are incentivized to do that because that is what their viewership most wants. They don't want a
people want an echo chamber
down the middle.
Nah.
And by the way, like
I don't want
the
an echo
network
chamber.
comes
A lot
out
of
and
people do.
says they're being scrutinized. Like people are going through and trying to find the bias. And I'm sure if you did that with SportsCenter or anything else, you could say, "Oh, that's a Yankees."
No, it's not like this.
No,
Come
I actually
on.
I strongly disagree with that.
People try to
Frank.
pick out your biases all the time.
Yes, my bias, but I'm doing like a talk show. It's a little bit different. When it comes to like hard down the line news, you tune into SportsCenter. They're not being like, ah, man, the Dolphins suck, this and that. Look at that. Like, and that's what you get with these news channels.
I would argue different.
What?
Yeah, like the news that I consume, I don't feel that kind of bias. And
Well, now you're going to tell me that you consume some sort of hipster channel. I'm talking about
it's like NBC and NPR, but I know that the zeitgeist is like, well, those are very liberal leaning, and I'm like, but the stuff that I'm consuming doesn't feel that way.
when you tune into MSNBC, it's very clearly
MSNBC.
that's what I'm
Fox
talking about.
News,
I'm talking that
these are-
you
these
know
are
exactly what you if you are looking for a certain slant, you go to that channel. You know exactly where to go. If you want,
That's what people want. They want the echo
but
chamber.
why can't I have a down the middle?
Watch the different reactions to the debate. It's very easy.
I
Go and
think if you watch like
whatever
ABC
CNN's
tonight,
and watch Fox's.
watch
will
like
have to-
ABC or something.
So it's probably the
We'll
answer
have to go
this.
international. An American broadcast network is not likely to be
BBC
objective.
No, well,
Nah.
it's reverberated around the world now. Even Ireland's left and
Yeah.
right. You know,
It's crazy.
It's all over the world.
I guess
Yeah.
the answer on a night like tonight is perhaps to your point, Rick, the national broadcaster,
CBS.
NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox doesn't really do it, but like those three will the big dog, if you will keep it down the middle. It's the cable networks.
For sure, cable.
100%.
I just wish there was a cable option, a 24/7 option that gave it to you down the middle. I don't want as much opinion. Just give me the goods. And
They're
I-
not incentivized to do it.
Yeah, money is what.
But isn't it
want
weird? It doesn't
the
exist in
slanted
sports.
coverage.
It doesn't exist.
As
There
I
is-
said, I think it exists, but I don't think it's the national network or the global network, right? It's more akin to what would be the Knicks channel or what would be the Red Sox channel or what would be even
that's
the fan
so-
channel.
I also feel like giving any sort of opinion on political stuff assumes bias. Like you can be like, oh, Aaron Judge didn't perform well. That's just a fact. I think anything you discuss politically is an opinion.
No, I think we as humans are capable of what Ariel is asking for. I just don't believe we'll see it anytime soon. I don't believe
I
it will
disagree.
be a reality.
I think people are so emotional about politics that it's
not very emotional about sports too.
And when you watch a football game, the amount of times that like I'm sitting with friends and they're like, this broadcaster, Joe Buck hates the Braves. I hate this guy. He hates the Braves.
That's what I'm saying.
When actually you're just like, nah, man, he's just talking right now.
Yep. You know, I used to record.
Wait, so Petesy said something interesting. So are you saying the Irish coverage of American politics is leaning toward a certain direction as opposed to like just?
I could show you examples like
Wow.
one that would
That's wild.
Trump and one that's
Can you do it now?
Kamala definitely.
Damn.
I'd rather not, but yeah, that definitely
the whole
exists.
thing,
And it's
it's
only
all-
kind of become a thing. It's only become a thing in the last, only noticeable in Ireland in the last 6 years. Like really,
No, it's everywhere now.
I mean,
you can
there's
find
so
that-
much money in it. There's so many views in political commentary.
I used to record the 6:30 NBC nightly news back in the day. Like this is like 06, 07, because I found NBC's production. So I grew up admiring Walter Cronkite. I named my son Walter, Uncle Walter, the most trusted man in America. Yes, Frank?
That's actually where you named him from? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's part of the Walter Cronkite, Walt Frazier. I just always loved the name, strong, backbone, ethics, all that stuff.
Walter White, big Breaking Bad fan.
Never saw an episode, but that's a CBS evening news. But NBC News, for some reason, the studio, something about it just felt, it was like a warm blanket. And I thought Brian Williams was the best at it. I thought he was our version of Walter Cronkite. Didn't end up being that way because he got caught in this lie situation. Then he got moved to MSNBC and just nothing was ever the same. He's coming back tonight. Did you guys know this for Amazon Prime?
I didn't know that.
And so I wonder, Amazon Prime, Brian Williams is going to be the anchor for Amazon Prime's coverage for one night only. They're only doing one night of political coverage. And I'm holding out hope that maybe this will be the one, although I know who owns Amazon and they were Washington Post and all that stuff, so maybe it's naive of me. But I'm excited to see Brian Williams back in the hot seat here.
Shout out to B-Dub.
Yeah.
Will we know tomorrow morning? Like,
no,
definitely not.
It used to be a thing where you knew right away, or at least
not
we
when
we knew night of in
doubt
2016.
Not when doubt is being cast on every single ballot, every single moment of every day.
Isn't there like 81 lawsuits already ready to go?
Jeez.
You just follow the money. Follow the money. There's no way to.
That's the answer to his question for sure.
Anymore. Like,
Petesy, true or false? Your first time ever in New York City was that night in 2016, right?
Absolutely. I can remember that so well, apart from when I got really drunk and fell asleep and woke up and Donald Trump was the president-elect.
You were there, of course. This is for UFC 205, McGregor Alvarez.
That's correct. I can remember meeting you as I was going through the metal detectors in New York. I can remember you showing me all of the flags you guys have from the championships over the years.
This is the first time meeting Helwani in person?
No, it wasn't the first time I meet him. I just hadn't seen him probably in about a year and a half. I think the last time I saw him before that was in Boston for... No, that's not right. Yeah, a year and a half would have been Boston for Dennis Seaver or something like that. I don't know.
We were at the open workouts, right? It was the Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I'd seen him loads. I don't know why I thought that was some distant memory. But he was showing me the flags from New York, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, this is crazy. You know, like 3 months ago, everyone in Dublin was like, you know, we're all going, Donald Trump is running for president. This is hilarious. You know, this is crazy. And I remember Luke Thomas being like, yeah, well, like, you know, it's not a joke now. And he could win. And I thought this was hilarious. I went down into Times Square and a few Irish journalists were there, and we find our way to this Belgian alehouse, and everybody's locked around these screens. I was locked in a different kind of way, because that's the word we use for drunk. And these are like 8% drinks that we're having. And I'm watching the screen, and I just see this name, Gary Johnson, and it's got this tiny little, like it's got the lowest percentage. It was barely 1%. And then I see this camera crew coming into the bar and asking people to talk. So I went to the toilet or whatever. When I came back, like the three journalists are standing with this guy who's shooting for this TV show, and he's like, Petesy will give you a few bits on how he feels about this. He lives in New York. So I'm shit-faced, and I start talking to Israeli TV, what it was at the time, about Gary Johnson being a man of the people, and he's walked up and down the streets of New York. Where was Donald Trump? All this stuff was shouting into the screen. But meanwhile, everyone in the bar was getting really pissed off me because they knew I was taking the piss out of the Gary Johnson thing. Got really angry with us. We all ended up leaving. We're out. I can remember we went to like Walmart and bought T-shirts or something. I think we got thrown out of there for trying on too many clothes.
Jeez.
And then I went down. I was staying just outside Penn Station. Went to bed. Woke up, and on the screen, Donald Trump has become the president of the United States. It was absolutely bizarre. And just the McGregor thing happening at the same time, it was sensory overload in New York that week. Crazy.
And not to mention the Cubs winning the World Series for, I think, the first, it was 108 years.
Don't recall any of that.
That was kind of a big deal here in this country.
This is the point where you blacked out. You were
no, I remember that week was insane. Cubs, Trump winning the presidency, UFC at MSG. I think one other thing happened. My daughter was born like 6 days prior, and I remember she was lying in the bed with me.
Wow.
She was like 8 days old at this point, and I'm watching the Cubs win the World Series, something that people never thought would ever happen, and we're in this whole new time, and I look at her and I'm like, I don't know what world I just brought you into, but this is going to be a wild ride. And here we are 8 years later, and it's deja vu all over again. Almost exactly the same circumstances with the UFC back, MSG, not this weekend, next weekend, and all this other craziness. So I hope everyone is hanging on and doing the best that they can.
No problem, mate. Yeah.
I do. We do joke about this type of stuff, but it's very serious, and I know it brings a lot of anxiety and tension. And as I mentioned, I decided to become an American citizen 4 years ago on this day. This was the day where I said I need to stop dilly-dallying. I need to become a citizen so I can exercise my right to vote. So it's a big thing. It's a really big thing. Some unfortunate news regarding this weekend's historic UFC Apex card. It is that Nicholas Dalby is out. I see this from Nolan King. Nicholas Dalby out due to an injury. He was one of the top guys competing. Did you see this news, Petesy Carroll?
Yes, I did. And Dalby's been on a bit of a tear. I know he lost to Fakhreddinov, a man who has an exceptional way of winning fights that he seems to have lost. But he's been looking really good lately. I think he's in the best form of his career. I thought he beat Fakhreddinov when they fought. And it was a great fight that he was going to have there with the Santa. So disappointing, yeah. But I'm sure we'll see him again very soon.
And some awful news. I see this on uncrowned.com. The former WEC title challenger Hiromitsu Miura has passed away at 43 years young. This according to his family, who released a statement on social media revealing the news. The 21-fight MMA veteran and former professional boxer lost his battle with acute leukemia on October 26, which had been ongoing since mid-September. He had a very famous fight against Carlos Condit back in the day in 2008, one of the all-time great WEC title fights, the Blue Cage WEC, I think it was 43, if my memory is no, 35, excuse me, WEC 35. I just retweeted a post from Shaheen Al-Shadi, our editor-in-chief. He posted the full video, which is on YouTube. And I'm clicking on this right now and watching it. WEC 35 at the Hard Rock Hotel, August 3rd, 2008, on Versus. What a time, man. What a time with that Blue Cage. There's Josh Rosenthal in the middle. And just incredible memories. Some of the best fights of that era were under the WEC banner. I mean, WEC 40, Takeya Mizugaki against Miguel Torres, one of my favorite fights of all time. And this one's an incredible, I mean, prime natural-born killer, Carlos Condit. Those were good days. The tap-out logo, we were young. 2008, how old was I in 2008? 26? Yeah, 26. I mean, GC was like in third grade, second grade? Where were you in 2008?
2008 or 2006?
2008.
8th grade.
There it is.
So like 13?
15.
Interesting.
What a time. Anyway, go check that out. Yes? Someone wants to say something?
No.
I think that was Petesy. Petesy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Petesy, go ahead.
I didn't say anything.
I know you. I could tell you meant to say.
Going to give an endorsement for one of the candidates. I thought that was where we were.
Oh, are you endorsing?
Are we all not going to do our endorsements now? No, is that not?
I gave my endorsement.
Throw it around the place.
Are we doing bets on popular vote?
I just wanted to know if Petesy has seen the Yoel Romero clip yet.
I saw it. It was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for clipping that off, guys.
Yeah.
Really awesome part of the show there yesterday.
Yes.
There's nothing like waking up.
Yeah.
It is. It takes. I woke up to a lovely message from a Blackburn Rovers fan talking about how much I was struggling. And if anyone knows what struggle is, it's a fucking Blackburn Rovers fan. Really 8th in the championship. So that one really hit home.
Yeah. Get him. Get him, Petesy.
Yeah.
Get him.
I mean, designed, choreographed attack by.
I think Petesy shaved his beard because he didn't
I was
want to
about
be
to say
recognized.
I had
as the
nothing
guy
to do with it. In fact, I have the receipt.
who didn't know the clip.
That was all Spencer. I had nothing
Is that
to do with
him? Is that him?
Is that the guy?
You don't know the clip.
It was great. It was amazing. We are back to that happened on the show yesterday, Connor. I know you were busy on the.
No, I saw it, man. Yeah, I watched all 4 hours.
Oh wow!
No
He
doubt.
actually messaged me saying you're struggling, mate.
Yeah, I've seen the clip too for sure. I've definitely had seen the clip.
We are back tomorrow on the nose. You can submit your questions right now. ArielHelwani.substack.com is the place to be. The post is up. We will get to as many as possible. Also on tomorrow's program, the Assassin Baby, the young man who won in the main event of UFC Edmonton, Brandon Moreno, will join us. And a little boxer known as Katie Taylor. Are you familiar with her, Petesy?
Never heard of her.
Yeah, she'll be on the program too. She did say I was, her favorite journalist, so she had to stop by.
Said that to me too there last year. Remember when nobody else interviewed her?
Yeah, that's right.
Show,
that
and then I did the in-person one.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was
one of my favorite days.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode. Of course, The Crack is back on Friday with Petesy Carroll and the boys in the back on Thursday. We got a lot of exciting things in the pipeline for the weeks to come, but you can hear my music, Frank. Time to go. It's time to get this election party started. We getting wings?
Have you guys voted yet?
Yes. No. We're getting to it right now.
Let's go, America.
Yeah. PT's enjoying the awkwardness that comes with some of these questions. I mean,
he's also awkward. I'm laying it out right now.
Why are you guys so awkward?
Over this guy. I mean, why only one party on Joe Rogan? That's what I want to know. Why, both sides. What happened to balance, Joe?
Keep going.
Keep going.
For
God's sake.
He had
the whole fucking Republican thing going on. Not a single one of the blueies were on there. Terrible form. I mean, for a guy like me, I only listen to Joe Rogan. He's the only man who will influence me politically.
Wow.
Where do I go from here?
Keep going.
Win or learn. I don't know. That's all I've got. But whatever happens, America will still be America, baby. Remember that.
Yes.
Number one.
Thank you, PT. All right. You can cut his mic. I was doing this and then I thought of Eric's dad. Didn't he say that I shouldn't do this?
Exactly. In
yes.
fact,
actually, it was you. Wasn't it you?
Both of us say knock it off.
Why is this bad?
Look, man, it's just disrespectful.
How is it disrespectful?
Okay, yep.
I think it's something about it's supposed to wave on its own. You're not supposed to
You're a grand old flag. You're a high flying flag. Isn't that the song? Aren't you supposed to do that?
Wow.
I've seen 1,000 parades where people are walking up and down the street like this.
Dumb things all the time.
Wow. You know yourself. Thank you very much to all our guests today. Frank Warren, Youssef Zalal, Todd DuBoef, Andy Foster. Like and subscribe. Thumbs up to the chat. Thanks to them. Thanks to all of you. Back on Wednesday, same time and place until I say peace.